good sized crowd, it's the crowd we should always. We just don't attract.
We need to do like a jig or something.
We need more drama.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No. I disagree, Mr. Ashley.
we should have a town manager. Seems.
No. I'll bring some staff to do it if you want.
That would be dramatic.
It would be.
Okay, the first thing is
Right.
the public hearing for the fiscal year 26 budget and capital improvement.
So you folks have been through every piece of this budget so far, but I know at your last meeting, you voted for an open town meeting, which would make this public hearing part unnecessary. But based on the budget schedule and everything, I didn't want to take it off. So if you have a secret,
Point of order, we didn't vote for an open town meeting.
at the last meeting, you all indicated that that was what you were going to do. But it doesn't,
We had a conversation.
sure. All I'm trying to point out is if you have a secret ballot town meeting referendum, you are required under law to hold an open town, to hold a public hearing. So I kept it on your budget schedule, so not to basically run afoul of that, because at your next, if you so decide to continue with your secret ballot referendum, you would have to approve that warrant at your next meeting. So this is the last opportunity to take public comment and to hold that public meeting according to state law. So that's why it's on there. And if any of you have any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. And the department heads are here also to answer any questions from either the public or yourselves.
This is, you've given us is the very latest,
That's correct.
which is updated from the one we had.
Your last meeting, correct? So the only items that have changed was at your last meeting. You had some consensus that you wanted the fire equipment reserve to be increased from my recommended value of 5,000 to 15,000, and also to do the same for the police department equipment reserve. And the other big change, obviously, is as a result of the special town meeting last week. We have removed one of the two trucks that Tony requested. So now there's only one on your capital budget schedule. And if you have any questions about that, Tony is here and available to answer any questions.
It seems like it's a pretty light capital request of the voters in comparison to previous years. It seems to me like that is by design, because we know that we're going through a revaluation, which sort of muddies a lot of water for a lot of taxpayers in terms of where the bill might go. So we've tried to take it easy and turn this down to the bare minimum. I see a lot of Lake Association people here, and as a resident of Annabescoka Lake, I think it's important for me to point out that there is a plan for next year, not this year, but to do something with the Annabescoka Dam in terms of capital expenditures. Do we, by the way, do we have a report yet from the engineer on the study?
Yeah, so thank you for that. I did request an update from the engineering company that we hired.
Yeah.
They do apologize that they are running behind, but
Okay.
the dive has been done. They have the information from the divers about flow and things like that. They just haven't had the time to do, I'm sorry, I don't know what they call the study when they study the flow of water over a dam. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Hydrological something.
Whatever that's called. So they haven't done that yet, and I apologize to those of you that might know more about that than me. But it's still on their radar screen, but as you suggested, we're looking at probably as next year to be something that we would potentially propose to the residents and also to Winthrop too. They've committed to helping us with that project. So, but we don't have anything.
50% rate, right?
That's what they said.
Okay. So, and so the figure I see for 2027, fiscal year 2027 for that is 200,000. Was that a back of the envelope type of guesstimate?
Absolutely, and it wouldn't hit that tax rate in 1 year, obviously. We would do similar to Cocknoagan if these are 20-year improvements.
Right.
We wouldn't pay for that all next year. It's just something to put on your,
Someplace.
yep, it's just something to put on your plan so you know about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
And also on the this page of the budget, you look down, you notice that it's a 2.5% increase overall in everything.
Municipal only. So what we have is we have placeholders in there for the school budget and the county, which we do not know at this point, but the municipal budget is that 2 point. That's what, yeah, based on what's in front of you. It's a 2.5% increase
In tax rate.
in tax levy. Yep. So if you look at the bottom of that sheet, I've made some estimates based on, so as you mentioned before, we're going through a reval and so I have estimated a general increase in the overall value of the town of at least 30% based on what I know. So the mill rate is the estimated, you know, it's a back of the envelope as well, but is also on there and it falls almost $4 per thousand based on that. So if you look at the front page of the budget, you can see it.
So the pie doesn't change, it's the slice.
That's
of
correct.
the
It
pie.
never does.
Right,
Yep.
and whatever,
Right. The mill rate falling does not lower people's tax bills. It
there are gonna
just,
be winners and losers.
that is correct. Absolutely.
in terms of
Yep.
average.
Thank you for making that clear because that is true.
What is the plan in this budget for replacing the police cruiser that was totaled, as well as the one that is near the end of its life?
Right. So is it 2016, chief, is the oldest one that we tried to replace?
The 2016, we tried to replace last year, yes.
Okay, so that is in your capital plan. You can look down here on the proposed capital improvement plan. It shows a 3-year lease of $18,500 per year, which I think that's a sound estimate still, I think. And the cruiser that was damaged in the accident so we're getting about half of that money back from Maine Municipal in our insurance. And if you look at the front sheet of your budget, right underneath the yellow highlighted kind of part on the right there's about $20,000 coming out of the unassigned fund balance, which will be the amount that we will get from MMA. And that will cover that. So we will not, my suggestion is that we don't hit the tax levy to replace that particular cruiser. Okay. And you'll also see in that list, there's also a pickup truck in there for Public Works, which is going to come from a $50,000, which will be the reimbursement that we'll get from, it's taken a long time, but that December 2023 storm, we're expected to get $50,000 from FEMA and NEMA for that. So I am proposing that we use that money to replace that Jeep that some of you know about that is no longer usable by Public Works so that they can pick up the trash and stuff in the summertime and not have to drive around a 1-ton or, as Tony told me today, a 3-ton pickup truck. I didn't know my difference between 1-ton and 3-ton. Now I know. But basically those big Fords with the dump bodies on them, so they don't have to drive those around to pick up trash at the beach and things like that. And I think you can see a couple other items are listed there as well, but they're less substantial.
Mark, do you have anything?
No, I haven't seen Mark yet.
So this is a public hearing, right? The public can comment on it too, right?
sure. A lot of the public is here for the.
Other topics.
Can we take them out of order? Yes,
Unless
do
we
we
want
have to do?
Floor.
We gotta finish the public hearing on
Close
the,
public hearing on.
Technically, I think, Doug, that
Yeah.
they can speak on the watershed issues in the public hearing because it is part of the budget. So if you want to allow that, you can let them speak during the public hearing.
you're the chair.
Yeah, we can do that. You wanna-
Go to the podium or just stand here?
Sure. Maybe people see you better.
It works better on the Zoom, but it's a,
Right.
you know, this,
So I'll go to the podium. My name is Jennifer Peaceville. I am the Director of Conservation with the Friends of the Topsy Watershed. I'm also here with the Acting Executive Director of the Friends of the Topsy Watershed, Keith Culling, as well as some of our Lake Association partners as well, and Essica, Clear Carroll County, Kathy Bogan from Cocknowagon Pond. It does not have an official Lake Association yet, but I know that that is something that Kathy is looking to head up. So first and foremost, I wanted to say thank you so much for all of the support that the town of Monmouth and the select board has given the Friends of the Topsy Watershed over the years. We really appreciate that support in order to serve the community of Monmouth. And I also wanted to give a quick update on the work that we did in 2024 and the plans that we have for 2025. So in 2024, it was a very busy year, a lot of successes, and then also a lot of new challenges. So in 2024, one success that I wanted to highlight was a potential save from a courtesy boat inspector. So the work that we do is prevention and management of aquatic invasive species. And one way that we prevent aquatic invasive species spread is with our courtesy boat inspector program. We hire about 30 seasonal staff for that program. And last year, one of our inspectors did have a potential save on Cocknowagon Pond, which was very, very exciting. So they found curly pondweed, which is a known invasive, not at this time known in our watershed, but they found that on a boat before it launched in Cocknowagon. However, we are very diligent in our efforts to prevent species spread and detect them early. So we are planning to conduct a further in-depth survey on Cocknowagon Pond early in 2025. So that is a unique survey for us. For Cocknowagon, we usually just do one survey of the water body, but this will be an additional survey need that we will have moving into 2025. We also have a new invasive.
Can I interrupt you for just a minute, Jen? Was the boat coming in or going out?
It was, they found it before it launched.
Okay,
However, the person on the boat said that their last water body was Cocknowagon, which is why we've not ruled out that there might be a presence. We have not found any indication at this point that there's curly leaf pondweed on Cocknowagon with our kayak surveys. However, with this plant, we want to do a thorough in the water survey to make sure that there's not an infestation somewhere that we just didn't find in 2024. So we're hopeful that there's no infestation on Cocknowagon, but that's something that we want to do our due diligence in detecting early if there is an infestation so that we can work to manage that. We also in 2024, we did find a new invasive species in our watershed, not in Monmouth. We found that in Pleasant Pond down in Litchfield. It was a new invasive is swollen bladderwort. This is a unique invasive. It is newer to the state of Maine. So survey and management efforts and protocols for the state of Maine are still relatively early, still being developed. So we are, per the protocol that the DEP has in place for surveying for this species, we are planning a survey on Pleasant Pond. And that's something that, again, we are doing in order to assess the infestation so that we can manage it and limit its spread so that we don't see it in other water bodies, like any of our water bodies in Monmouth. So that is a new challenge that we are working with in 2025. We also did find some variable leaf milfoil, some larger infestations in the southern end of Cobbossee Lake. So that variable leaf milfoil is another invasive that is not new to Cobbossee Lake. However, it did pose a management challenge because it was more than our team could manually remove with individual divers. So we are actually going to be contracting with a company on the milfoil. They work to suction harvest that milfoil with their diver assisted suction harvesting vessel. It is a pretty pricey contract, but we don't have that equipment that's specialized to remove infestations that are that large. So we do partner with them, and that cost has increased going into 2025. So that is an increased cost. We also have discovered Eurasian water milfoil in the southern end of Cobbossee, which is a new development. However, that we did have a lot of success with managing that in 2024. So I'm very, very hopeful that in 2025, we're going to see some progress with that as well. So our staff, we are continuing to hire a similar amount of staff as we had last year. So again, there's 30 CBIs we are planning to hire back to protect the watershed for that prevention of aquatic invasive species introduction and spread. We are also planning on hiring 2 survey teams. So one of them is what we call the roaming survey team of 6 individuals, and they will be working on many different water bodies within the watershed, including on Barry Dexter Wilson ponds, Cocknawagan Pond, and Annabessacook Lake. We also have another survey team that will be specific to Cobbossee Lake and surveying that water body. We also have a 3-person plant control team that we are hiring for as well. They will certainly have quite a bit of work ahead of them in 2025. They will be working on Cobbossee Lake, but they will also be working on Annabessacook Lake, which is another water body that does have variable leaf milfoil in that water body. So with Annabessacook Lake, in addition to our control team working in there to remove small infestations that can be removed through hand removal, we will also be working with the Department of Environmental Protection and the Annabessacook Lake Improvement Association and Cobbossee Watershed District for a planned herbicide treatment. We are planning an herbicide treatment in certain areas in Annabessacook that have that we've seen some variable leaf milfoil growth that we have. We believe that this is the best management plan moving forward for certain areas in Annabessacook. And then after that, we will be working to remove those infestations if they do grow back with physical removal. All right, does anybody have any questions? I know that was a lot of information, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Can I ask a question just on a personal level? So you mentioned something that is in Pleasant Pond. My parents live on Woodbury Pond, so I'm kind of interested in the downstream. That plant that you mentioned that's in there, I've never heard of it. Does it spread quickly? Do you know anything about it any more than what you said in the meeting? This is a personal question, but I'm curious. I swim in that.
Question. It is, at this time, we don't know the full scope of the infestation in Pleasant Pond. It is a tricky plant to survey for because it is a floating plant, but it floats underneath the surface and mixed in with a lot of native species. So we have, and that kind of adds to that challenge, that survey challenge. Just because it is a unique survey for this specific species. We are working closely with the DEP with this survey and then with management that will occur once we know the extent of the infestation. We are planning on having CBIs at the boat launch in Thoroughfare Road, just to limit that spread so that if any plants do come out of the water body, our CBIs are trained to find any plants on vessels.
Okay.
So in terms of the water movement, so water moves from Upper Pleasant Pond, which is kind of a funny name if you're familiar with Pleasant Pond, because that's actually the southern part of Pleasant. And it flows up and out the Cobbossee Stream and into the Kennebec River. So in terms of water flow, I don't foresee that being a concern. I think more of a concern is it hitchhiking on a boat or fishing equipment.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you for entertaining me.
It's likely that the invasive in the southern end of Cobbossee came from Anabesicook.
Oh, the variable leaf milfoil?
Yes.
So it is, and that's again because of water flow, it is possible. We don't know for sure, but we do know that in Jug Stream, which connects, so Anabesicook to Cobbossee Stream, the water does flow from Anabesicook down into Cobbossee Lake, not Cobbossee Stream. So we have seen, variable leaf milfoil in Jug Stream, and that's something that we had, been managing and surveying for, and unfortunately with the way these invasives do spread, they do tend to spread relatively quickly, especially with boat traffic. But we know where those infestations are, and we feel very confident with having New England milfoil in there to work on those areas that we'll be able to work to manage and control those areas.
Can you give us an idea where in the southern end of Cobbossee the variable leaf milfoil was discovered?
Yeah, so we do know historically that variable leaf milfoil was first found in Cobbossee Lake in 2021. And we only found very small patches, very, very small patches that we were able to hand remove around, we call it the Bermuda Diamond. It's this area, so again, Jug Stream comes in and there's an area of islands in kind of a diamond shape. It's a really interesting area because the lake floor is so variable. It goes from very shallow to very deep. It has very diverse substrate. And so we have found plants in that area that we've been able to remove. We have also found it, again, individual plants and patches just right along the shore, again, the southern end of Jug Stream. And we have been able to remove those relatively quickly. This infestation that we found, and we have done some extensive surveys, and it looks like it might have, again, just hitchhiked on a boat. That's unfortunately commonly how these plants do spread. But we found it, if you're familiar with Maple Ridge Islands. So we have found plants on both sides of that culvert there. And right along the boat channel, there's a bit of a boat channel there where it gets a little bit deeper, and we found it just right along the channel there. I wouldn't say a very, very large infestation, but with this plant, we have been struggling to remove it with divers. So just again, to give us a leg up for the next seasons, I think having the New England milfoil in there for a week should give us success with managing in that area.
Yes.
So let's talk about rebuilding the Martin Hovey Dam, which would catch anything that's likely to come down from Anabesicook, which is very likely because of ongoing problems. Are there structural things in building that dam that can assist in preventing anything that's coming down from Anabesicook to getting down below that dam that should be considered as we're working on the dam design? That's the question.
That is a great question. I unfortunately don't know, I don't know the answer to that. The Department of Environmental Protection, they might know a little bit more. They might have an answer for it. I know that has been a concern. We have unfortunately seen some invasives, not necessarily in our watershed, but we have seen that with water movement through dams that has sometimes caused spread of invasives. So that is certainly something that I wouldn't be surprised if it's on the radar of Department of Environmental Protection, but unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that.
It is actually an excellent question, and I'm glad that you brought it up because it should be something that's part of our discussion with our engineer. Because what we're trying to do right now is to try to better manage the flow of water so that we can lower and raise the lake level more appropriately. And I don't think that your question has ever been brought up. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and I'll make sure that I bring that up. But right now, we're basically looking at enlarging the flow aperture so that we can lower it and raise it faster so that people's yards don't flood out all
I mean,
over.
I do remember years ago from something else, there were fish on the Allagash that they were trying to prevent from expanding their territory, and there were some attempts at doing something with the dam to help with that.
Yeah, I appreciate that question because it's never even crossed my mind. So I'm glad that you mentioned it because we can have that discussion with the people that know things. It's not me.
Is there? Yes,
So the material is coming down on Jug Stream right now. It's been pretty much contained to the vicinity of the islands there and along the western shore.
Yeah, so again, we do survey Jug Stream every year. It does get surveyed to see, where those plants are and to assist with our management so that we can limit spread down Jug Stream. But yeah, that's a great question. So again, mostly they have been individual plants that we found within that chain of islands and
Okay.
on that western shore. At the end of 2024, that season, we didn't find any other plants around the islands and on that western shore. And all of the plants that we did find, unfortunately, were by Maple Ridge Island on both sides of the cliff. So those are I would say would be the outstanding plants are in the southern
Because that,
part
the
of it.
large cove at the bottom there where Jug Stream comes in. And the old stream bed goes along Maple Ridge and then under it. But that whole cove in there is relatively shallow.
It is, yeah, the southern end of Cobussy is very shallow on both sides of Maple Ridge. But there is that one, there's like a little boat channel where it does get a little bit deeper. It's a very, very small channel. And that's where we've seen those plants just right along the edge there. And we actually were able to map out the exact area of
I
where.
believe that's the way the stream way back actually came down. It came
Okay.
down and went, if you were facing Maple Ridge from the lake, it went on the right side. And you can go from where it passes under Maple Ridge now. With a depth finder, you could actually mount on there and follow where the old streams are.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
are there any areas that you're thinking about restricting usage?
So we don't restrict usage. So the Department of Environmental Protection and Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, both of those commissioners need to agree for a surface use restriction. So it is really, really hard to get that. And we love public access. We want people to be able to access the water bodies, and the state of Maine also wants that as well. So it is something that we try hard not to have surface use restrictions when we can. But there are certain areas that unfortunately it is, if not required, it's the best management for that area at the time. At this point, I personally don't think that we need to restrict any additional areas. There are 2 SURs in our watershed that the DEP and IFW are planning to renew moving into 2025. One of those is on Annabessacook Lake near Wagon Road, where the old boat launch was. And the other one is on Cobussy Lake near the Cobussy outlets. However, we don't believe that there is any other area at this time that needs a surface use restriction. And that's because we have a good idea for management in place. And if, seeing what things look like by the end or the middle season of 2025, we might be able to make more of a determination on needs and if a surface use restriction is needed anywhere else in our watershed. But we're going to try not to limit access as best as we can.
So they're not going to, they don't plan on reopening the Annabessacook access on Wagon Road then?
So, no, not at this time. That is planned, there is a planned SUR. They're planning to renew that there. I know that there is some bridge work that's being planned in 2026, I believe. But with the opening of the new boat launch, if you're familiar on Holmes Road.
Yes.
Really nice, beautiful boat launch, with a really big parking lot too.
Yep.
I believe that that's gonna be still the main,
Okay.
public boat launch on Anabesic for the foreseeable future.
We're also fortunate that in that area of the surface use restriction on Investcook,
Yep.
there are very few homes. So people are not restricted to getting to their property or their dock.
They just went from the other side to fish.
They do sometimes.
Your request for $22,000, would that be put on a separate article?
No, it's built into the budget, now, and I can show you where it is. So what happens is the Friends sort of requested on all of the group's behalf. So we get one request that represents requests from the Anabesic Lake Improvement Association, the Friends of the Carbon Watershed. Yeah, and those are kind of broken out for boat inspections on Cocknogan Lake and Anabesic Lake. There's also a request from the Tacoma Lakes Association, so they're requested sort of as one. I believe we send the checks to each individual group, but they send one request to you folks.
It's on the sheet here.
It's right here. And
Okay.
I got one tonight. I don't know if you got one too, but they're right. Yeah, it's all on that.
And it's currently built into our budget model.
Yes, it is.
And under which article, for voter education, which article would contain it?
I was just trying to find it. You give me a minute.
Sure.
You can move on to something else.
I have a question for Jen.
Sure.
I'll do some singing and dancing.
Sure. I will find it for you.
This is maybe some homework. I know that a while back, we had some genetic testing done to confirm that the variable leaf milfoil in Anabesic was in fact invasive, because I guess it hybridizes. It kind of grows in with,
Yes, I don't mean to cut you off, but the hybrid species, that is still considered invasive.
Yeah.
It's still a concern for our other native species. And it does outcompete the native milfoils as well. So even though it might be a hybrid, it would still be considered an invasive by the state.
sure. So at one point, I have a recollection that someone was able to, based on that genetic testing, say, oh, this is a cousin or some relative of the variable leaf that originated in Pleasant Pond back in the 2010-ish. And that the operating theory at that time was that it was transported on a boat prop to the old boat launch in the Wagon area, was put into that wetlands as a result of, from Pleasant Pond, a boat that had come from Pleasant Pond. I hear you when you say there's stuff in Cobussy. I'm wondering if there might be a way to just do the genetic comparison between what we know exists in Anabesic and figure out whether it's exactly the same in Cobussy.
Yeah, that is a really great suggestion. I do know that a lot of our variable leaf milfoil that we found in Cobussy Lake, we actually did send a lot of samples out for DNA testing and a lot of native milfoils out for DNA testing, because the variable that we were seeing was very close in appearance to a lot of our natives in the southern end of Cobussy Lake. So I can certainly reach out and see if they still have the information from those DNA results, if they might need a new sample to test something like that. That's something that I think the Department of Environmental Protection would be able to help answer and see if that's something that we would be able to accept.
You got an answer for us?
I have it. So it's under the Public Works budget, and it's considered other public works. It includes the parking lot rent for the lot down here on Main Street that we rent from the trained people. And then milfoil inspections is the line item in there. And then it also includes the Woodbury Pond maintenance, because we give $500 a year to Litchfield to maintain the Woodbury Pond dam. So those items they are all under the Public Works budget, so. If you want it passed, you vote for Public Works.
Page 4. Page 4.
Great, thank you.
Other public works, which is 49.
Sorry, it took me a minute. I couldn't remember where it was. I couldn't remember the percent of community services or.
Are there any other questions? So, well, thank you so much, and thank you again for your support.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Does Mark have a question? Are we seeing Mark up there?
Mark, do you have anything you want to add?
Nope, no questions at this point.
Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure.
Yep.
And so for this budget request to be included in our budget, we don't need to do anything.
No, it's in there. So unless you want to remove it or change it, it's these people might not be pleased, but that's why you guys get the big bucks.
The option to increase it in
Not me.
Yeah.
So is that amount divvied up between, you put it in as a line item, but it's divvied up amongst the requests from the various lake associations?
That's correct. So generally, we get an invoice from each one of them individually after the fact, and then we pay them.
Not just Lake Association, but also Friends of Cavasy Watershed.
Correct.
Big organization.
Correct. Yeah, there's, I think is there 7 or 8 requests on that? That one, I gave, oh, no, I have one right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 6 requests on one thing from the various groups. Would you like to have it? You can have it if you want. I already have a copy of the book. There you go. Yeah.
Does it go to 22.9 or is that? That's big red ink.
Give me just a second. I got it right there.
It was 18.9,
Yes.
not the 20.
22,900. Yep.
So it's going up $4,000.
Yes,
from this.
yes, that's correct.
There is enough there.
Yes, that is correct.
The Secretary Treasurer of the Mary Dexter Wilson. We've never got up, I mean, I do all that stuff and I've never gotten an invoice from anybody. I guess the town has just paid it. We send Cavasy Watershed friends $2,900 from people who are members and donate. So
Oh, sorry. So with that line item, it does go to Friends of the Cavasy Watershed, so we invoice the town for Wilson, for Ravens.
Include the public hearing.
Second that.
So the motion by Joe, second by into Chris to in the public hearing, all those in favor?
I vote yes.
Thank you. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the minutes for March 5th, our last meeting.
I only saw one thing. It said Mr. No name. So it didn't have Mr. whoever for who seconded the item number 11.
Number 11.
So number 11, it said Mr. Seconded.
He was.
Who wants to second it?
I don't, and I can't
Can I
remember.
put Mr. O'Donnell?
Yes, it is. Yes, I probably.
It was for the special town meeting, so I don't remember
Okay.
Who
who
did it?
seconded it.
Okay,
So.
I'm gonna put you, is that
I
okay, Joe?
don't remember.
Okay,
I have no idea. We'd have to look back,
right,
listen to the meeting. to
right. She
figure it
probably
out.
couldn't figure it out. That's probably, she
So,
probably didn't hear.
Yeah.
She does, that's how she
Yeah.
does the minutes. She
She
watches
watches
it after the fact.
Zoom. And what everybody wants to do on a Monday morning.
I
That's the
will
only
check
thing.
into that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
But other than that, I'm surprised you didn't see that, Mr. English teacher.
No. I don't. So close.
I move we approve the minute as amended.
I'll second that.
So Joe has made a motion. Chris has seconded it to approve the minutes of March 5th. All those in favor? Mark?
I vote yes. Yes.
Next are department reports and
I'll go before Tony.
good idea.
I like how they're friends, so that could be an insult.
It's had the limelight lately, so.
All right, you got your handout for the month of February.
Yes,
It's
sir.
heavy. You guys, what, do they give you good paper over there, Winthrop?
One for paper, but that's all
What
right.
am I talking about? I'm sorry.
All right, month of February, PD handled 267 calls for service. 6 arrests were made during this time frame. 1 criminal summons for operating after suspension. 4 OUI arrests and 1 arrest on 4 separate warrants, and that was as a result of the high-speed chase we had. Just bring you up to speed on Lieutenant Westling, recovering well, he's anxious to get back to work. He had the cast on his right arm removed, yesterday. And they're looking at surgery on his right ankle and foot in 2 weeks to remove the plate. And so they can start working with, getting it back on that leg. And once they remove that plate and he's recovered from the surgery, then they can start the PT, get him up walking around, so. Just wanna wish him a speedy recovery, I need him back. Reminder that on March 30th at 1600, the Monmouth and Winthrop Police Departments will be hosting an Italian night community supper at the United Church in Monmouth, 778 Main Street. I invite you all to join us for a fun-filled evening. Don't be in cuffs, I promise. There may be an exception. The feasibility committee for the consolidation of the 2 PDs, we had our last meeting on December 10th, 24. We're scheduled for another one, the week Dana had his accident and we put it off. We also lost 2 members of the committee. We're in the process of replacing those 2 members that we lost, but we're moving forward with the plan. And hopefully get you some recommendations before fall.
Can I interject just a
You certainly can.
second, Chief? So I just wanted to let you know that the chief, the town manager of Winthrop and I are also going to be meeting with the town managers of Jay and the town of Wilton, which are in sort of the same predicament as us, where they, one town's a little smaller than the other one, but they both have PDs. And the chief is graciously willing to have this conversation. So we're going to have that next Thursday. Monmouth is going to host people from those communities. I think their police chiefs are going to come too, just to talk about what we're going through and what they might be going through too with the consolidation effort. I just wanted you to know that we were doing that. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Nope. I brought to your attention last year the communications upgrade that Winthrop is going through. We've hired an outside consultant, FE Consulting out of Virginia, Fairfax County, Virginia, to do research on it. They came back with a project estimate of about $2.9 million for the upgrade. However, a portion of that, 52% of that was gonna be paid by a federal earmark, and we know what happened to all federal earmarks last week, so we were notified by Senator King and Senator Collins, beginning of this week, that we had lost the ability to obtain those funds, but we were encouraged to reapply for FY 26. Again, which we will do in probably the first of next month to reapply for the FY 26 grants that are out there. So we're putting, we're getting our radio committee meeting together on Friday morning. and really dig down into it, look at our, needs versus our wants, and prioritize into like a two-phase approach, what we need to do now that we can fund, get the project moving. And then phase two would be using that federal money when it becomes available, if it becomes available, to finish off the remainder of that project. I just want to say the men and women of the police department have pulled together really well, in Dana's absence. And I'm proud of what they've done. They've put in a lot of hours, covered a lot of open shifts. And we've had some, even though our complaints are down because we don't have Dana out there arresting everybody. 3, 4, 5 days a week. Our complaints are down, but the seriousness of those complaints, bothersome and increasing. And we're just gonna deal with it. We're working with, through our town, both town attorneys right now to, put together a contract with Winthrop to supply us with an officer for 40 hours a week to help cover some of those open shifts because 70, 80 hours a week for me is getting old. I'm getting tired. And I am getting old too. And going hands-on with a guy and wrestling with him the other day, it just reminded me that we really need to concentrate on getting this done because I'd rather have the young pups out there wrestling, not me. So that's where we're at in a nutshell for February, beginning of March. On the back side here, you can see the breakdowns of times and days a week, the number of calls we're getting. And then the last 7 pages are the breakdown of the calls year to date. Ruminate on.
And I just want to say that we owe Chief Ferlin and also Josh Hammond of the lieutenant over in the Winthrop Police Department a debt of gratitude for, they've been picking up the slack. So I hope that everybody understands that when he says 70, 80 hours, that's what he's doing. To make sure that Monmouth has police coverage. And right, this is not what a police chief signs up for, but Chief Ferlin, time and time again, always steps up to the plate. And I also like to thank
It is
Josh over.
technically what I signed up.
No. Right, but I just want to make that state, he won't say it, but I will. So just hope that everybody's appreciative of what he's doing for this community.
Question for you based on the numbers here. How is our coverage at early morning doing?
We are still doing, our 12 and 12 coverage. We're just not, like 4 in the morning until when I come out on the road at 5:30. We're on call during that time, so. You'll see the numbers during those timeframes are lower than they usually are, just because we're not on the road doing the property business checks and drawing numbers for them, so that's why those are appear to be lower during those timeframes.
Sure. Well, I'm just also noticing that, the hours between 2 AM and 4 AM seem to be pretty popular times for
Shenanigans.
someone to be calling, needing assistance.
Last call to
pass
out, Chief, is that's what we're dealing with here, right?
Fortunately, our liquor establishments close at 9 in town. Yes. These are brought in from outside.
Yeah.
The OUIs at four in this last month, and we've had 2 already this month. For some reason, those are winding up, projecting up, and I don't get it, I don't know why those are increasing. I do know that we two of the arrests in February were the result of concerned people calling in and following the people until law enforcement got behind them, which I'm appreciative of. Having their involvement, because most of the time people don't take that initiative, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it becomes a needle in the haystack for you.
Yes.
Ginger?
There was recently a New York Times article about the increasing gun violence in Lewiston. And how concerned are you about that
We feel it.
headed our
We
way?
feel the pressure. We feel the pressure, and let me tell you, without getting into specifics, there are a lot of bad elements from Lewiston that have settled into the Monmouth and Winter communities. And the public's not aware of this, we are aware of it, that's our job to protect you guys, but it is moving this way. I hate to say it, but that's.
No,
true.
but I wanted to know. Maybe we should be locking our cars in.
Absolutely. Take the keys out of the ignition, please.
No, it's
All
a-
those things
it's a
we do
very
in our
sad thing.
neighborhood, you know.
Okay, but thank you for your honesty.
Yes, ma'am.
There will be a program at the library on March 29th from 10 to 11:30 about senior citizen driving. Some people might be interested in coming to that.
Awesome.
Thank you for that.
I'm there, I should go. I just want to also point out that, the signature on every one of your documents is a real
Real
signature,
one.
it's not an auto pen.
Tough to follow. Once I get a bunch of questions, I'm gonna be way shorter than Keith this time.
There's a first.
True. So just since the last meeting, things have quieted down quite a bit in our little world. That pretty good rain event we had over the last week identified some, water flow issues. Some of it's, attributed to frozen culverts. Still a lot of frost in the ground. Couple of them are created by homeowners that snow on the end of their driveway that we so nicely give them. They plow over and bury the culvert, and we had some 3 or 4 feet deep, but. So we've identified some culverts that need to be replaced that, you know, I wasn't aware of coming into the spring, so, you know, our little roadmap of work is gonna be altered, but, you know, it is what it is. Great, town meeting, very, very good for the Public Works Department the other day. I was surprised at how many people were there. I was surprised that, we have a lot of questions, which were good questions, and hopefully I was able to answer them. The people's expectations, I guess. We're gonna go pick the truck up tomorrow, so. Boys are kind of hoping it snows Monday. I already told them.
They're the only ones.
Yeah. You got that right, but I did tell them, don't worry, I'm driving.
That's the first time.
That's a joke. You know how much I hate plowing. Any question other than that? That's pretty much what we're gonna do. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Tony.
Select board reports.
May
Oh, yes.
I,
Sure.
may I remain seated? My back's hurting this evening.
Oh, it's chair says, oh, yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted folks to know that the library's in the middle of a makeover. I'm not sure if everybody knows, but the Monmouth Academy librarian works there part-time, and she's creating new signage with our wonderful cricket mission. With the addition of the part-time Monmouth Academy librarian, the library can now boast more than 60 years of library experience among its staff. So with the makeover, we're moving lots of things around to improve sightlines, and improve organization of materials. We're trying to make room, we are making room for a conversation area. So we're planning to get a couple of small couches, maybe a comfy chair or two, and, hopefully a phone charging table where you just set your phone down. Like magic, it gets charged. This will be at no cost to taxpayers. All this will be paid for by the McCabe grant, their generous grant. And there should even be enough left over from this project to install a sensory garden on the south side, the cemetery side of the hall with raised beds. That would include, plants for sight, smell, touch, maybe some culinary herbs and maybe even a small fountain or a wind chime or something for the sound. This weekend, we're having a young local artist, up and coming artist. She's been to the library once before. And she is going to read her latest book, The Cat with the Paintbrush Tail, that's got St. Vincent, it's like Van Gogh. And then the kids will do a reproduction of one of the scenes in the book, which socks would have the cat print stamped on them, so they'll be able to kind of make a mess and really have fun with it. And then as Ruth Ann mentioned, the following weekend, in cooperation with the Age Friendly Monmouth Group, we're doing safe driving for mature drivers. It's a free presentation, 10 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. The state folks are coming over. I don't know if attending this program would give anyone a break in their insurance rates, but this would be a question to ask the presenter. And then beyond that, we have a lot of great things coming up for April. Eric Cochran Day will be in April, and I have a lot of other programs scheduled as well. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you.
When is the safe driving?
That is Saturday, March 29th at 10 a.m.
March 29th.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome.
Select board reports.
I just have just a couple things. Yes, okay. So, I just want to, I put the federal issues paper in front of you. That's the sort of the theme of what, we discussed, last week. So, for those that don't know, I'm the vice president of the Maine Municipal Association, and as such, I go to Hill Day, down in Washington DC, and we met with every member of our congressional delegation, which I think is something that we should be proud of, because other states don't get that opportunity. Their senators won't meet with their municipal officials. So I think that we should be happy about that. As the chief mentioned, with the recently passed budget, all of the congressional delegated spending was stripped. So all of that stuff is gone. Senator Collins, as most of you know, is now the chair of the Senate Appropriations Committee. She is absolutely committed to getting all of that stuff back, starting when the president submits his new federal budget to her committee to start working on it. She pretty much promised that anything that you were going to get before, that she will make sure that you get it next year, and that she wanted to make sure that she apologized for just the machinations of government and that it didn't happen on time.
The caveat to that is you have to resubmit because they have changed the forms.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. But she is 100% supportive of all of the projects that she had previously indicated that she would support. The other issue I wanted to put in front of you was I just gave you a copy of this bill. I hope that people will support it. This is part of MMA's platform going into the legislature this year. It looks like this. It's got the state of Maine on top of it. It's a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution requiring that not less than 90% of state reimbursement for residential real estate property tax exemptions, and to establish a minimum homestead exemption. So under this, it would be required under the state constitution that there's a $50,000 homestead exemption that would be reimbursed by 90% by the state of Maine. So this is to try to get out of the biannual fight that we have where they steal municipal monies to make the state budget balance. So this would make it so they can't do that anymore. So I hope that anybody that feels in support of that will either send something to your representative or support it, because it's part of Maine Municipal's platform in this legislative session. I just wanted to put that out there while talking about it. The last item that I have is one that I don't really want to talk about it, but Joe told me that I had to.
Before we go to.
Sure. Go ahead.
Going back to this bill.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
So the mechanics of this bill would ask to have a vote.
Yeah, it's a constitutional
Right.
amendment, so it requires,
That voters would need to weigh in on yes or no.
yes, that's correct.
And it would need 2/3 support of the legislature in order for it to appear on a ballot.
Yes.
So it needs to be a bipartisan type of thing.
Yes, I mean, if it gets put to the voters, correct, right. So the voters, so if the legislature doesn't support it, I can't speak for MMA at this point, but we've had internal discussions about supporting a petition initiative to get it on the ballot in spite of the legislature if they don't want to support it.
A citizen initiated,
You can put a constitutional amendment if it's done through a petition process as well as both chambers of the House and Senate. If they refuse to do it, we could support a petition process.
and the idea behind this bill is to sort of prevent the state budget process from clawing back the property tax exemptions that they give us in statute, but then say, oh, this year is kind of a tight year, so we're only gonna give you.
In theory, but we're also going a step further, right? So right now, the homestead exemption is $25,000.
Yep.
So we're saying, I don't want to say we, the Maine Municipal Association, through the Legislative Policy Committee, is supporting a $50,000 homestead exemption.
Right.
That then the state would support at 90% reimbursement. So when the state supports exemptions, that's easy for them to do when they don't pay for them because it comes out of the property taxpayers. So by saying that they're gonna reimburse us for 90% of the tax loss, it would be an actual property tax relief to residents of Maine, which is MMA's whole platform this year is to reduce property taxes. Right, so that's where they're coming from and that's where they're trying to get. Obviously, that revenue comes from somewhere else, but.
Just advise the bill number.
Yep. It's, right now, it's number, 1,112 and it's House Paper 731.
Yeah.
And it's been presented on MMA's behalf by Representative Matt Lack of St. George.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I just wanted to put it in front of you, just so you know.
Just so that everyone is aware, and I don't know if everyone gets it, the homestead exemption is sort of the discount that year-round residents get in terms of a reduction of their property valuation. And it's actually one of the reasons why we're going through a reassessment this year, because it's been like 17 years since we've actually had an assessor with boots on the ground, coming out and saying, oh, you have a back deck, and oh, you have a shed over here, and that kind of stuff. And then figuring out what that value would be. And when your assessment data is not accurate or it's 17 years old, then the state starts discounting the homestead exemption. Is that fair to say? So they start charging us a penalty, but it's not us. They start charging every individual property taxpayer a portion of the homestead exemption you're no longer eligible for.
Right. So our certified ratio, which comes from the state tax assessor, this year we just got is 63%. So of the 25,000 that the state entitles communities to give out for the homestead exemption is only 63, whatever that number, I haven't done the math. But 63% of 25,000 is what you will probably see on your tax bill coming this fall, because we are not, actually, that's not true, because we're gonna have a revaluation, so it should be the full 25,000 this fall. But that's why, if not for the revaluation, it would be 63% of the 25,000.
You'd only get 2/3 of it.
Yep.
And of the homestead exemption, the current refund rate is 50%?
Under the Constitution, it's 50%. The legislature had increased it on a 3% basis, trying to get to 100. And I think right now it's at 76%.
76.
And then in order to get rid of the senior relief program, that was the other year, that was the compromise, was to freeze the homestead exemption increase.
At
So
70%.
yes, that was to pay for it.
Which means that when your discount is given, the discount is then applied to other property taxpayers in the municipality.
That is correct.
right? So everyone else
Picks up that
picks up the cost of the discount. So it's kind of like,
26% or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'll put it in one pocket, but
Got it to come from
this
somewhere.
comes
Right.
in the other pocket.
Right.
Debbie?
Has the reevaluation taken place? Have they already been around?
Yes.
So it's done?
They are, as far as I am aware, they are done the data collection. So they have been to all of the properties. They are currently working on the data schedules, which they will send out. We send out tax bills in August, September. I would expect sometime in June, July, that you will get a notice from the town at that point where they will have calculated what that new value will be. And then at that point, you have an opportunity to come in and meet with the reval company to either dispute it or ask questions about it, whatever you want to do. And then the bills should go out on regular schedule under the new values.
So they've completed their work now, as of now.
I think they're done. They were parked in the parking lot today. I thought they were done, but they had 2 cars here today, so they may still have a few left, but they're 95% done here. They visited most of the houses already. There may be still some left because some individuals are very adamant. When the notices went out, they called the town office and said, I do not want them on my property until they make an appointment. So those people they slow them down a little bit, otherwise they would be gone, but they still have to go deal, they still have to meet with those people that want to have appointments, so they're trying to work around people's work schedules.
So they're gonna be like the last time where they posted it all online and you go down and say, oh, you know, Mary's property is this and our property is that.
You'll actually get a notice in the mail. You'll get a physical piece of mail that says this is the proposed value based from the reval company that will say, this is what we think you're worth. Or your property's worth, sorry, not you. And-
Sorry, I understand. I won't
And,
take offense this time.
And then you have the opportunity after that, they will be at the town office for like a week to meet with any individual that wants to dispute that or discuss it with them.
The last time they did it, when I went out and looked online and residents next to us was valued at such and such for the land value, and ours was valued at this much. And they're virtually the same size.
Sure.
And when I went down and I asked him, he said, well, you're in a different neighborhood. And I went, we're 6 feet apart,
Right,
you know?
yeah. So you do have that opportunity. You have an opportunity to come in and talk to them. That's part of their contract and they'll be available. And then if you're unsatisfied with that, these are your assessors here in town, but obviously Donna Hayes has been the agent for 20 years. She does the work, so she's gonna commit the taxes this fall, just like normal. And if you feel aggrieved by that, by the actual assessment, even after you met with the assessing company, you have the same rights that you always have to come in, file an abatement request with the agent, which would be Donna, and then she submits a recommendation to the board and they decide. So you still have all of your rights. It's just that the new values are gonna come out and initially everybody, a certain amount of people are gonna be upset because their house is probably gonna be worth twice what it was last year. But then you look at the mill rate will drop, and depending on what the voters approve or the town meeting or whatever we're gonna end up doing approves for the budget, right? That drives how much money you have to pay. It really has nothing to do with the value on your house, but that's kind of the process. So, but we're not there yet. It's only March, and this is gonna be why everybody's gonna be in the room in July and August and September. They're gonna be all angry about the reval. But let's not do it today.
Justin,
I hope the field is dry so we can all meet outside.
That's right.
Dave brought up a good point, which is, is there a plan for like a means for comparison? Right, like, what are my neighbors assessed at? What am I assessed at? Is this reasonable kind of?
The last time
Question.
it was online
Right,
and you could go and walk your way around
if you wanted to.
We're on
Yeah.
a lake. You could walk your way around the shoreline and go like, oh, this, that.
Yeah. So, but.
All the values are public information, so anybody can ask for whatever they want. They're entitled to it.
Yeah, but just so that we don't get overwhelmed with requests, is there like a whole list somewhere or whatever
The
that,
database online.
yeah,
It generally is a response to, so you're gonna get your proposed value. And if you're curious about it, you're welcome to contact the reval company. We have the information won't be posted, I don't believe, in a database until Donna commits it, which at that point you would have to go through the formal appeal process, not the informal one, which the reval company will offer. Because Donna will not commit the values until after those informal hearings have happened.
Right.
So people will have the opportunity to come in and dispute their values with the company that put the values on it. And if you are unsatisfied with the resolution of that, then you will go through, after the taxes are committed, then you will follow the normal legal inquiry process to appeal your values.
I believe last time, no, the database was out there, and you could go and say, what is that one appraised at? What is this one appraised at?
If that happened, I'm not gonna dispute with you, but I would be absolutely flabbergasted if in 17 years ago, they had an online database that these companies were uploading information into, because nobody had online assessing databases up until 12 years ago. And we haven't had a reval. We haven't had a full reval. We had a market update in 2017. So maybe that's what you're referring to, but a full reval has not been done here for 20 years, and there wasn't. Nobody had online databases 20 years ago.
sure. So is it possible that we could do something?
I can see what is in the contract,
Okay.
but I can't make
Well,
them provide anything that we didn't pay for.
Oh, of course. And you might also just point out, though, that giving tools to the general public to sort of scrutinize their information and compare it to others might actually reduce the amount of, I don't think that's going to be inflammatory. I think that's going to be like, an explanation for why the number is what it is.
Sure, I don't disagree with you. I'm just not sure whether they're prepared to provide that.
Right.
Because otherwise you have no recourse. You go in and you say, I think my number is too high, and they go compared to what? I don't like you. I don't, you should lower it.
They don't like you, that's why they bumped it up high.
You've got a long line at the door of people who are like, I'd like to see all the numbers for these addresses. Right? Because that's public information. I mean,
I believe, Justin, that was the part in Lakeland back in 2017.
Right, it may be.
And you could.
It's a
write
spreadsheet.
down.
Yep.
it's just a spreadsheet.
Wouldn't be surprised.
What it is.
I will ask.
Okay, thank you.
I just don't know the answer.
Excel spreadsheet with addresses and valuation.
Yep, I just don't know the answer, but I will certainly inquire.
So I think we're on to,
No, I'm trying to get by it without Joe calling me out.
What's
All right.
what does he not want to talk
He
about?
wants to talk about
So,
designation as a credential manager.
Oh.
so I don't like to talk about myself, but Joe is gonna make me, so I'm gonna do it because he's my boss. So I have been approved by the Credentialing Advisory Board of the International City Managers Association to be a credentialed manager by the International City Managers Association. So what that basically takes is I took an exam. I submitted my resume, my credentials, my background, my education, things like that to a committee of my peers, if you will. And they have recommended that I be certified, but short of anybody appealing by March 31st. So I sent that to the board, just to let them know, and Joe told me I had to tell everybody, and
So you're certifiable?
yes.
He's applying to be certified.
So
What does a credential manager do?
So.
Retains more money.
No. It can. It can, but I will be the seventh manager in Maine that is credentialed by the ICMA. There's only 7 of us. It's the city manager of Auburn and. Oh, I'm kind of proud of it, so I told them about it, and I didn't really want to make big spectacle, but Joe insisted.
Florida seemed to have quite a few, as opposed
The
to.
big states have a lot of them. Maine just doesn't, because we're smaller and it's a hard thing to do and some just don't do it.
And it's worldwide.
Yes, it is. It's an international city manager. So some of us are in Canada and there's a few, we don't have a lot of city managers in other parts of the world. They don't do things like that. A lot of other countries have strong mayors. But we do it this way. So we're obviously this is very heavily centered in the United States, but it does include Mexico and Puerto Rico and Canada and a few countries in Europe that also have city managers. So that's all. I'm all done. You guys can move on with your business.
So then I think we're back to select board reports.
I have 2 items, but I'm happy to let. The Trails Committee is hopeful to get a letter. Did we give them something in writing about this commitment to match the RSU?
I have not done that.
Okay, so hoping to get that letter.
Yes.
Okay. That's just FYI, we're applying for a grant to create a trail behind the schools across the street here. It's an all accessible trail, so it would be accessible for folks who are mobility impaired and in a wheelchair or whatever. So there's a lot of engineering involved because you've got to make sure that the trail is certain quality. And so we're applying for a grant that would total about $220,000 from the state of Maine. We recently passed a bond. That bonding is providing the funding for this pool for grants. And the town's contribution, well, the matching contribution needs to be 10%. It looks as though the RSU is may be willing to partner with us as long as they get a letter that says we're committed to doing it. 50-50 in terms of the contribution. So it would cost us $11,000. And the RSU, assuming they put it in their budget and the budget is approved by the voters, would also be contributing $11,000. So we need to get that to them because they have a meeting coming up. The school board does. And they need some written evidence to point to.
My fault, Ken. We talked about this.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I dropped the ball.
The other thing I wanted to report, I went to a meeting of the Water Association regarding the North Monmouth water main expansion. And for about 24 hours, we had it fully funded. We had a verbal commitment from the folks at Tex Tech who are looking at replacing their fire suppression system in the factory. And if we were to include that as part of the project, then we would be meeting the requirements for local contribution based on that $2 million expansion. So Tex Tech has verbally committed to giving the project $2 million that would include fire suppression and all of the water needs of the factory in North Monmouth. That qualifies us for a number of grants that have this sort of local match type of requirement. And then we had the earmark, the congressional designated funding fall through the next day. So we're still on the hunt for filling that gap of $3.5 million. Senator Collins' office seems to think that we can reapply and they're optimistic about it. In the meantime, Justin has agreed to reach out to Senator Collins' office to get some reassurance that would go to Tex Tech, so they're still on the hook for their commitment. And in the meantime, we're also moving forward, it looks, with the engineering piece of it, so that we're ready to go when the next federal budget goes through. We already have a $500,000 award. If Tex Tech is willing to put up $125,000 in local match, then we can use that funding to start the engineering design process and keep the project moving forward. Tony, we had a meeting with North Monmouth people to sort of explain to them what I just described. And we begged their forgiveness for the quality of the paving in North Monmouth, and they completely understood. And they were actually complimentary with how often the crew is out there to fix potholes and take care of the most egregious things.
You may or may not, no, I'm not sure if he was here when we had this discussion, but we didn't put any money over there because we might dig the road up for the water project.
Oh, yeah, no, I was all part of that.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure, I can't remember who was.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of put that on,
Okay.
the whole paving.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't picking on him.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's all I got.
Go on to public comment. Uh, Next item is to consider a proposal from Jacob and Anna McDermott to amend the library's ordinance.
Were we gonna do item number 8 prior to doing this? Can we do that?
Sure.
Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay. So item number 8, Mr. Chair, is the dates for the 2025 town meeting.
So the basic question, just if that's the question that you want to have, is whether you want to have as I've sent in my packet to you folks in the email, was whether you want to have the old select board, quote, old, right? But the one that's sitting here now, presiding over that meeting, or whether you want to let the newly elected select board, should it change, preside over the meeting. So my suggestion would be to either pick the Saturday before or after the June election, depending on how you feel about that's the way that you want to run it. I mean, that's really that's the question that I have for you. That's what this question is on here.
When does the term end?
So
Is it June 30?
That's what I always assumed it was, because then we came and took our oath.
right, and changed it.
July 1st.
Right, so with it, so this town has chosen to do its elected officials by secret ballot, and that is binding until the town meeting changes it. So those elections have to be done by secret ballot. The rest of the articles, like we discussed at the last meeting, is completely up to you whether you want to have an open town meeting or whatever you want to do. So, but you guys can decide that if you want to have the elected officials typically have always run on a fiscal year, and they're replaced as of July 1st.
Oh, I would think it would be the president.
Generally, it is.
Yeah, and I think it, for me, my thoughts is whoever worked on, developed, considered, approved the budget, be the ones that are sitting to discuss it, as opposed to
Right, yeah.
anybody new coming in that wasn't involved in that process. If they weren't a member, a select board member before.
So the election is, the state election date is June.
10th.
So if you wanna,
But by the way, when do candidates for that election need to have their papers submitted to town hall?
April 10th. April 10th.
oh, yeah, it is, it's April 10th, very good. I just couldn't. Exactly.
All right, so April 10, for folks who want to participate or want to appear on the ballot.
Yes.
Right, so you could conceivably do the open town meeting on the 7th, you could do it on the 14th. Those are kind of the days, you can either do it before the election date, like I mentioned, or you can do it after.
I
And then you,
know, is Steve Kalenda still with us? He was on.
Listed up there anymore.
yeah, he's still there somewhere. I see him. He's at the bottom of the list.
So, Steve Kalenda had some new information to share about our decision-making process for using the open town meeting as a means for deciding the warrant articles. And I would suggest that maybe give him a moment or two to discuss a little bit of just,
What was your thoughts behind that? Why? Why go back to an open town meeting?
well, there you go.
I mean, we all voted 20 years ago to have a secret ballot. Why all of a sudden go back to an open town meeting? Why put it in 50 people's hands when we had 600? Why? Why would you want to do that? Unless you're trying to sneak something.
I don't know why somebody would ever say that we're trying to sneak something, because
Well-
we have to talk about it in front of people anday, so just the
No,
fact
no,
that
no.
people
No,
think that
no,
we're
Kristen,
trying.
I'm sorry. It's so much easier to stack a 50-person open forum than it is to stack 600. If that's what you're planning on doing. It just makes it look sly. We went 20 years ago to this closed town meeting. We haven't had a problem since.
Well, for 200 years, we did an open town meeting. That was
Yes,
the
when
tradition.
we had 1,500 or 2,000 people here.
That was
We
the
have
tra-
over 4,000 now.
That was the tradition, and people come and they're informed, and when they vote, they know what they're voting on.
They can come to
So
open town.
there are trade-offs. There are trade-offs.
I'm sorry.
And I think that's.
Not
you know,
right.
The other thing that, we had discussed too is the fact that at the open town meeting, you can have a discussion about a number. And if it's too much, you can lower it, or you could increase it.
No, you can't
Oh,
increase. it.
well, that's right, you can increase
No.
it, you can only lower it,
Yeah.
sorry, sorry, you can lower it. And that's a discussion point, as opposed to having, a special election like we had to last year, and I think it was, $6,000 or $7,000. As opposed to having a discussion about it on the day that we're all sitting at Cumston Hall.
And with all due respect, there are new town members since 20 years ago when you changed it. So, I mean, it is a main tradition to have an open town meeting. A lot of us do like it. Those of us who can't attend meetings on the regular, I can't attend every board meeting. It's really great to be able to come to one meeting where my neighbors are, to plan for it ahead of time for childcare. All come and discuss everything. I think it's a great thing to have, personally.
Allison?
I read what Steve had posted, but I'm a little more familiar with it. And my husband and I never have these conversations, but we had this conversation. And he said, he grew up in a small town in Vermont, and they had town meeting, and then they went through something similar when he was a young man. And apparently Vermont, New Hampshire, there's a situation where if the people in attendance, it doesn't meet a quorum of the population of voters, then it doesn't work. I mean, you can talk about everything and hash it all out, but if say only 50 people show up and whatever the figure is of registered voters in the town of Monmouth, if you don't reach a quorum of that number, then you still have to go ahead to a secret ballot. And it's scheduled within the same time frame. So it's kind of a little bit of both.
Monmouth doesn't have a charter, so there's no way to impose that. So each town meeting can make new rules, can overturn what was done at previous town meetings and at previous referendums.
So who writes the chart? Each town meeting writes a new charter? Like,
You have-
who can make those rules?
No, I can explain that if you want, Joe. So a charter is a legislative process. So the town, so that the select, through the select board on a town meeting warrant, they would have to propose to the residents to create a town charter. So like Winthrop has a charter, that's why they have a council.
Okay.
So towns can create any form of government they want if they go through the chartering process. Monmouth does not have a charter, so we fall back to state law and everything.
Gotcha.
But if you have a charter, the town can create any rules it wants to govern itself, as long as then the voters in that community have to also approve that, and it actually goes through a state process where then they sort of stamp it and say, okay, you guys went through the full process and now you guys are completely self-governing outside of the statutory framework that's created by the state. But we don't have a charter, so like my powers as the town manager are vested in state law.
Right.
Their powers are vested in state law. There's no local charter to kind of govern how many meetings they have to have or anything. They can just make it up as they go along. But if there's a charter, right, you in theory could have a council that can only approve budget items, and ordinances have to go to the town meeting. Like the town can create any system it wants under a charter.
Thank you.
Debbie,
So just so that I'm clear, thinking back to the days when we were having town meetings, are we still talking about the same thing where everybody goes, the items are discussed and voted on by a show of hands?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
somebody walks around and counts them?
Yes.
That would be the process.
But somebody can move for a secret ballot. And some articles can be voted on by secret ballot.
And so a good example of the format we're talking about is the tool that we just used to purchase this truck for the town. Because we had a great deal on a truck, we needed to get the approval of the voters to expend the money. That's not something that the select board is allowed to do by state law. We need to get voter approval on expenditures. So we called a town meeting for this one item. And in about 20 minutes, we disposed of the item after some conversation about why it was a
With
good thing.
36 people.
I think it was more than,
45.
yeah.
So,
But you're right. Nonetheless, there was a lot of very good questions asked. Anyone in that room understood why it was that we thought that this was an important thing.
In that room, you said the
oh,
word.
and I think
They
the
were
other.
all invited. They could come if they wanted to come.
And
That's absolutely
That's-
correct, Joe.
Yeah.
But
And so-
nobody had made up, get their babysitters all lined up and all of that this. We were just talking about, whereas if it's an election on June 10th, you can set aside a half an hour to come down here and vote and go home.
But if it's a town meeting on June tenth, we can do the same thing.
Not
If it's an annual
not for half an hour.
Mr.
No,
Chair,
not for half an hour.
hey, Mr. Chair, I'm wondering if maybe now would be a good time for us to sort of use the rules of order so that folks take turns and are respectful
Raise their hand.
and raise their hand.
yeah,
So, my understanding is, I see both pros and cons. I used to love town meeting. I brought my kids. It was a great, but I do understand that make less people show up. So one of the questions I had is, can there be a Zoom option for town meeting? No, I don't know if technically before that wasn't even something. Now, that would still not bring in the same amount of people that voted, but it might help a group of people be able to attend that might not otherwise.
No,
Okay, well,
it's not legal. You can't vote
okay.
proxy through Zoom for town meetings.
The second.
Legislature hasn't allowed that yet.
Okay, so the second thing that I think is important to note when we're talking about this is we won't have to do the school stuff. Because remember the old town, the school stuff was, sometimes it was very contentious and very high. So it will be down to stuff that's a little easier to deal with. And to me, that sounds quite helpful. We don't have to do this. That's a good thing.
Allison?
No, never mind. Let's talk about.
The school stuff, sorry, Mr. Chair, just to clarify what the school stuff is. That was the, back in the day when all the, when the school department worked directly for the town.
When the town owned it.
The town owned it, and all the teachers who were also residents showed up to make sure that the budget passed. And then they would go home and not express any interest in anything else. So we might have special interests show up for their part of the budget and wanna, like, how many people in the police department?
That are town residents.
The fire department.
Not enough to buy a cruiser.
Vern.
The school budget vote at the same time as the town budget vote, and doesn't that have to be by ballot? I remember we used to get pieces of paper where we actually had to walk in.
That's right, you're right.
So
The school, right, they have a dual process. They have an open town meeting forum, which you can go and you can vote up and down articles, but you're correct, there is a budget validation vote that has to be done by paper after their, if you want to call it, their open town meeting that the schools have. They have to do it twice.
And every
Sorry,
3 years.
I know it's exasperating for some people. I just think it's really great for people who haven't lived here forever and don't know everything by secret code of living here forever, could come together and openly discuss things. Because it feels very ostracizing. I mean, I've lived here almost 10 years now, and I still don't know all the secret in and outs. And if you can't make every single meeting of every single board, you don't know what's going on. It feels very not transparent. So an open meeting or forum discussion, at least the opportunity for one, would be super helpful to newer residents.
Am I right that the article, the agenda item is to set the date, whether it's open or by ballot? Our job right now is to set a date, right?
That is correct. The limitation is that when you do a secret vote election, because of the requirements under state law for absentee voting and all that, like you need to decide that you're gonna have one version or the other by your first meeting in April, because it takes us 2 months to prepare the ballots and have them available 30 days before the election. So that's really the issue, is if you have an open town meeting, you guys have lots of time to figure out the budget and everything, but we've always worked under the schedule that everything has to be done by your first meeting in April because of the absentee ballot requirements and the fact that we have to make the ballots to go through the voting machines and all that. It's more work for the staff, that's all. But it's completely, obviously it's your decision. I mean,
Are we to set a date tonight?
if you're gonna have an open town meeting, it would be. I put the date on there because at the last meeting, it appeared as though there was consensus that you were gonna have an open town meeting. If you're not gonna have an open town meeting, then I don't really need a date because it's gonna be that June state election day.
June 10th.
June 10th.
Okay,
Because unless you wanna have the polling place open for 2 different days, which I can't
no,
imagine that's helpful.
no.
But you could, but, right, that's completely up to you too.
Doesn't it make sense to do June 10th then, if that's the state election?
Yeah,
we're gonna do a secret ballot.
if we were gonna do a secret ballot, but obviously we'll be voting on June 10th, we will be voting for select board, library trustee, hall trustee, sanitary district.
Correct. Water association.
Water association, any of those seats that are open. And also the RSU budget
That's
will be
correct.
that
Yep.
day as well.
Yep, either way.
So those things will happen regardless on June 10th. So what we need to decide is if we're having an open town meeting, we need to pick either the 7th or 14th.
Or any other day. I mean, it can be at night. I mean, a lot of towns do it in the evening too. But
Yes.
but I think,
You know,
I think here, back when you used to do it, you did it on Saturdays.
Traditionally.
And that's okay too. I mean, it's whatever you want.
June
And
tenth is a Tuesday.
that's the Tuesday.
Yes, hey,
I think that, given the level of population in town, that, an open town meeting would not really be representative of the overall population. But it's at a fixed location, you have a fixed amount of time, you have to deal with, where would we put 1,000 people if they showed up? You couldn't possibly handle it. So a regular voting issue is much more desirable.
and of course, Allison,
When you're considering the date, you might want to consider also those dates. I have to check the RC calendar, but graduation weekends and families that have commencement or the activities that go along with those. Because if you do need a big place like the gym, or you have a section of the population that's going to be very busy sending their
We would
students.
be using the gym. We don't use the RSU property for
I don't,
voting at all anymore.
so then that is the question, if you have a big turnout, where are you putting them?
We've always used Cumston Hall, so,
And is that busy with the,
no, we have first dibs. As hall trustees, we can tell you that if the town needs that building, we have first dibs on it. So we can tell the theater, even if they have the lease, that we need it for that day.
What's the head count to fit in the Cumston?
I don't remember anymore. Do you know the,
Where's the fire chief when you need him?
what the,
I
what
don't, I
the
don't.
count is? It's like
oh,
200,
two hundred, so.
Oh,
I'm not sure.
225.
And there's
So,
upstairs though.
and the balcony as well, and so.
So it's
Usually
it's
upstairs.
plus, 225 plus.
so
Dave,
They make a recommendation, since it's going both ways here. You know, the elected officials are sitting in front of us tonight. All in front of us tonight, who were elected by secret ballot. Why can't you put a question on this year's secret ballot to see if it's feasible with the town's 600 voters, whether they want to go back to an open town meeting and plan it for next year?
We talked about that last time, about wouldn't be on the ballot, because we can't put it on the ballot, correct? It would be a survey question.
A survey
It would be
question.
just a survey, a piece of paper that's separate. So we talked about that last 2 weeks ago.
I tried to interject last meeting, but I got dropped 3 times from dead Wi-Fi here.
So if there was a separate, piece of paper voting on it and that, would you still be bound by the outcome?
No, it's non-binding.
I'm sorry?
It's non-binding because it would be a survey question like we've done before, that it's a separate colored piece of paper that you can choose or not choose to pick up on your way in and leave it on your way out.
Oh.
So that is the only way we can do that.
Correct. So to answer your question, one town meeting can't bind the next one to any decision that it makes. So one of the most important, I don't know if important's the right word, but one of the most powerful powers that a select board has is to set the warrant. It's their document. So they can decide whether it's a closed town meeting, an open town meeting, whatever else they want. They also get to decide what the questions are. If they don't want to propose questions to the voters, they don't have to. So in a lot of communities, they tend to respect the will of the people sitting in the room, right? But they do not have to. It's their document, their 5 signatures will be on it at the end of the day, and they're the only ones that get to decide what's on it, except through the petition process. So if you want to if you can get 10% of the people that voted in the last gubernatorial election, you can force them to put an item on there. But other than that, that is their greatest power as a select board. I'm giving you a civics lesson, and I'm sorry if you already know that. I'm sorry if you already know that answer, but okay. I don't mean to be lecturing you. I'm just explaining.
But that would also entail then that you could put a petition to remove a selectman?
Yep. Under state law, you can remove them.
Okay.
Debbie,
So it sounds like we have 600 registered voters, is that?
No.
Oh, it's way more than that.
Way more than that.
But that's the typical,
Vote, our typical.
that's a typical participation level in past secret ballots,
Town election time.
town election, past secret ballots, so June election.
Usually anyway.
And
Off gubernatorial, off presidential election, right?
I
so
see,
It's the other elections that we have. The other ones.
I see, Steve Kalenda is still online, but he's been quiet, which is unusual for Steve.
I've been there all night.
I know. And maybe if it's not Steve, maybe someone else remembers this. This would not be, if we were to go the route of a survey. This would not be the first time that this town has done a survey. Like there have been previous surveys.
2 of them, I think.
2,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Quite a while.
But I don't know if anyone remembers the results of those surveys.
Excuse me, heavily in favor of the voting, the referendum, secret ballot. Yes.
In both cases.
Yeah.
I mean, that was back in the day, back in 2009 or 2012
Yeah.
or something like that.
Does it matter whether it's an opened or a ballot? Whether it's on June 7th, can we do June 7th? Let's set a date.
You could, but I would not recommend having a closed ballot election outside of
Outside
the
of
state
this.
process, because we already have to staff
Okay.
June tenth
Yeah.
election all day. So we close the town office on election day because we don't have enough staff. So they're already gonna be here. So I wouldn't recommend having them also come in on a Saturday for a closed ballot election. Like if you don't want to have an open, if you want to have the closed ballot election, just do it on the regular election day. Would be my suggestion, just from an administrative point of view. Obviously, I'm not a resident. You guys decide how you want to decide
I
your own.
think picking a date
affairs,
for one
but-
of those Saturdays would only be if we are deciding to have a open town meeting. Otherwise, the secret ballot vote would take place on June 10th regardless. So I think, the question remains. Are we,
I don't know about all of this. I saw something on Facebook that was talking about this, and so that's the only thing I know. But and appease isn't the right word. The people that want to have an open town meeting, couldn't we just have an educational, informational, open town meeting prior to the election so that people similar tonight could ask the questions that they're,
we do that.
okay, so.
It's a
And
public hearing.
that would be in 2 weeks. If we choose to do a secret ballot, it'll be in 2 weeks when we read every single warrant question and say the select board recommends yes or no, because that's our document. And any warrant article that has a dollar amount, we have to give a recommendation to.
Right.
So that is the format to come in here. And our budget process by date is on the town calendar of what we're talking about leading up to this. And then in 2 weeks from now, we would read every warrant article, and that would be the time to talk about it. That is essentially takes the place, with the exception of people voting on it at that time. But we are putting our document together and signing the warrant that night that will be voted upon on June 10th if we choose to do it secretly.
So what is, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't raise my hand. Go ahead, Dave.
Well, the only difference is instead of just being able to lower it, you can also raise it that night. Like if you vote to raise a number, you can do it, whereas an open town meeting, you can only lower it.
60 days in advance of the
Yeah.
election.
So you have, we used to pack Tumston Hall. I still had the floor.
So, I mean, the advantage of one of the advantages of an open town meeting is what you saw last week, where we had a big opportunity. If we didn't act on the purchase of that truck, we could very well have lost out on the savings that truck represented. And I mean, if we said, oh, well, you gotta wait 60 days for us to have an election, blah, 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 blah. You know, they could have, that deal could have easily fallen through. So there's a lot more flexibility.
But those options are always open to this board to call for an open town meeting for a specific
Or
item.
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Mark?
Mark? Yes.
Yeah, I see both sides of the argument. People always want transparency, and it doesn't get any more transparent than everybody sitting in a room and having a discussion. And you vote on something, and if for some reason it doesn't pass, we can continue the discussion and say, well, what do you want to see? And you have the option of lowering the number and still pass a budget. But either way, if there's a huge outcry and people think we should continue to vote by secret ballot, that's fine. I don't have an issue either way. But we're trying to make things run smoother and efficiently, open and transparent. And we thought we may be making things better for the people in town, not trying to sneak anything through anybody.
I have a comment if I can make it, if you can hear me.
Yes, Steve?
Yeah. Okay. I had expressed myself in writing to all of you, so I thought really I was clear on everything. But I thought I'd go back, since it hasn't been brought up, about the history of how we got to secret balloting by referendum. And it started back in 2003 when the selectmen put 3 articles for over $1 million worth of spending on a referendum vote. All 3 were voted down, and the Public Works Director at the time said that they wanted those things to go through, and he said if you put them again on a referendum, they'd all get voted down. So the selectmen went, brought all those big spending items and brought them to town meeting. The people were so outraged by this, we actually did have a huge turnout. All those things were tabled and all were voted down. But as a result of that, the people came up with a petition and which said that all future meetings would be by secret ballot voting. And that vote was at the presidential election in 2004. So you had over 2,000 people speaking at that. 1,356 said yes, they wanted to go to referendum, 860 no. Well, the selectmen at that time didn't like that. They said, they were saying people wouldn't know what they were voting on, so they went and asked the people, do you want to return to town meeting? They put that out for a vote, and that one was 484 people said no and 299 yes. So twice, clearly the people have said they want a referendum style voting. I think this is a simple one. If you folks again would like to return to open town meeting, that you should put it clearly an item on the ballot and let people vote on it again. And as I would say, the question I don't think any of you could ever answer, if we have 100 people at open town meeting and 800 people who will vote by referendum voting, why would those 700 people ever go out and say, I want to go back to a method where I won't vote? Can anyone answer why those 700 people who are voting by referendum would say, I want to go back where I don't vote?
We have to make a decision. We have to say it. Tonight, do we have to do it tonight?
That's a Justin question.
Yeah.
We have a hand there, Mr. Chair.
That's Steve.
Possible to link that, like, is it 2 weeks?
Just raise your hand.
So if Steve is correct, and I'm sure he's 100% correct, there was a vote at a referendum ballot for the next year, which we just said that you're not binding for.
Right.
But it worked then, why it would work again? And we're voting for selectmen who I hope you would vote for somebody on the board that feels the same way you do. I mean, that's the process of voting. I,
Do we need to decide tonight?
Yes.
Yes.
Because I need to know for your next meeting whether you're going to sign the warrant or not. If you have, if you want to do secret
Here's the
ballot,
machine have to
Yes.
move.
that's correct.
Right.
Yes,
If we're doing a secret ballot, we need to have the warrant items
ready.
signed, ready and signed.
Correct. I have to have them ready for you for your next meeting.
I think due to time constraints, I'm sorry. Okay, well, due to time constraints, I think the best option is to, for this year, continue with the secret ballot and put out a questionnaire as to whether any subsequent votes will be held in a public forum. I think that's the best alternative because of our time frame. We're working on it right now.
It can't be on the warrant.
No, because it's not a binding question.
It was though, back in the day.
It's not. No, it's not.
Emily,
It may have been on the
It was
warrant.
on the warrant.
Right, but that would have been, according to the town council, would be incorrect format.
Okay.
It should not have been.
I was gonna suggest to go ahead with a survey and to just popularize, make it very well known that you're voting on the warrant. To invite everybody possible. As loudly as possible, as much as possible. You know, so that people can come and discuss things and feel like they're heard. And then again, put it on the survey for this year, and then whoever is voted in, select board can decide.
If
We
I could,
certainly can create a survey for the meeting. That's not an issue at all.
Well, I'm gonna move, we have an open town meeting this year. I move. Is there a second?
What was your motion again, please?
I'm moving that in 2025, we have an open town meeting, a traditional town meeting.
But still have the secret ballot.
No, there'd be no.
No, that would negate it.
Still to the school.
I
Except for the elected officials.
Motion needs a second.
Yes.
Yes.
So select board members, school board members, water district, all those other, the sanitary board, the Compton trustees, all of those would still be secret ballot if you had an open town meeting.
That would be the.
Correct.
Mark, did you want a second Joe's motion?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay. So you don't get a second.
So while I'm talking, I will make the motion that we continue with balloting that has been done for this year.
I'll second that. With the stipulation that we have a survey.
Correct.
Talk about it tomorrow? Oh, no, okay. All those in favor of Mark's, who seconded it?
Ken seconded it.
Ken seconded it. All those in favor of Mark's motion?
Yes.
A half raise. I'm like, yes, I'm half raising.
And I oppose.
I know.
Joe's opposed. Sorry, for the record. For the minutes, Joe is opposed.
Yes,
Yes.
okay.
So you're all set?
I'm all set. So we're gonna do the June 10th regular process. Okay.
Just
so-
regular.
So I will have the warrant prepared and ready for you the best of my ability for your next meeting, so you can sign it. Sound good? Okay. So if you have any other changes you want to make, I need to know tonight. You don't have 2 months anymore.
Will you
What?
be able to send them out to us before the meeting?
I will send it out with your regular packet.
And we can suggest changes.
You can, yep, just, I would just ask that you do it before I get here, because otherwise I don't know how to print it out. But yes, anytime up to the meeting, just make sure you get in touch with me and call me or something.
2 weeks gonna be here? In 2 weeks, gonna be here?
2 weeks, yes, it's just a regular old thing that we do when we read every ballot, every
Yep.
warrant question,
Well,
so.
Okay.
When
You're
we,
gonna have a lot of people.
if we get a lot of people, that's
a good thing.
We always worry about, we used to have it,
comes to.
we used to have it at Compton, but there'd be just a handful of people.
Dave, it's not an open town meeting. They just decided to do it closed ballot.
Yeah.
I know, but it's a chance, still chance for the people to, when they read the warrant, to question it.
Understood.
So if.
But I'm just telling you that in my 3 years here, no one's ever come.
I know that.
So if they do come, then good.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that I've never had this room this full for that meeting ever. So if they do, then good for everybody. I hope they show up.
You may regret it.
I won't regret it. I just do what you people, I'm here to work for you.
Well, I mean, I'll just say, after what we went through last year, we asked people to come. And during the budget process, nobody was here. Well, you were here, because you always are here, Dave, but I mean, nobody was here. So when we talked about every department.
Except car night down too.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
I'm just teasing you. You know that, right? Okay.
now that when we went through every department, nobody was here. So here we are. Yeah.
They didn't know to be here for that. A lot of people didn't know to be here for that.
And we talked about that last year as well, about how it was there and it was published, and Dennis put it in the messenger, so.
And I tried to hold, my response to last year was I have held meetings at the town office several mornings that people were willing, that we had the
Yeah.
coffee with the manager thing, which was all over the place. Which was another opportunity for residents to come in and talk about whatever they wanted to. And we had very, very few people show up. So I'm not sure what else we can do.
Yeah.
In the realm of what else you do I remember that there was signing up for text blasts from the town? And you'd know about stuff like, and you'd get that, and I hate to feel like I'm that
Yes.
kind of person who doesn't remember something till it shows up on my phone in text, but that's where I come to these days. And let me tell you, the RSC was great at that. I hear about stuff for the kids' practices and games and meetings over and over and over and over.
Yeah, they're almost too good.
They're almost too good about it. But I feel like a lot of times I'm catching the messenger, I'm catching a post or something after the fact. I might have been able to come, I might not have, but if that messing, because that's been around for a while, I don't think it's being utilized.
No, it's not, because I am willing to listen to feedback on that, but my personal opinion is from my experience working in other communities is people get really sick and tired of hearing that no offense, I'm gonna pick on Kent, but the Economic Development Committee has a meeting tonight. 99.9% of the people in the community have no interest in receiving that, and they don't want that type of information pushed to them. I am willing to entertain feedback about whether we don't use it enough. I'm absolutely, but I also understand from I personally don't want everything from the town I live in every day. I don't want to know every time they have some committee meeting there, because I personally don't care. I spend enough time caring about this community. I don't have time for mine. So it's just, but I'm willing to entertain that. If you guys think it should be pushed more, then I'm open to that. I just try to be respectful of people's personal space,
I'm not a technology expert, far from it, but I feel like when I have signed up for notifications, there's usually places where you click what you want to hear about. Is that an option that we could do? So if I'm interested in the watershed, or I'm interested in public works or just select board meetings, but if I don't want to hear everything, you just click all or click your interest. If that's something, and again, I have no idea how that works.
We can make it as sophisticated as sort of the residents expect, because the system is very sophisticated. just by choice of mine, I have chosen to use it for very few things, like basically
Thank
the
you.
town office is closed because of a snowstorm and, or town meeting is next week. And I didn't even send one out for that because I wasn't here. So that was on me for the one last Thursday. But generally, I try to just use it for elections and town office closures and big events, and I don't use it for anything else. But if I get feedback that you all want to hear you want more stuff, I'm open to that. It takes me 2 seconds to send them out. So it's no big deal from my perspective. I just don't know the balance between
Well,
irritating people and
we don't
informing them.
decide this tonight, but I mean, I think those electronic signboards are very helpful.
Yeah.
And we tried to do that before and people turned it down. But, and even though everybody doesn't drive by, it does help get the buzz going. You know, if you want to say, Maine Municipal Association office closed up. So I do think that is a vehicle for keep, it may not be the only one. And I don't have strong feelings about it, but it's a suggestion.
We tried to do that
I was.
2 or 3 times.
It got voted down.
I think it can vote.
I voted down every time.
I was just gonna say the same thing, Alan, that I feel like we should utilize the text option more. And again, you can choose to option in what you want to hear about. Like, I do want to hear about economic development committee,
Sure.
but not trails or whatever.
Right, right.
That would be helpful, because I think I've signed up and I've only gotten 2 in the past year.
I don't use it very much. I mean, I'm being honest with you.
So more reading, that would be a good thing to send out.
Yeah, okay. I hear that feedback. I appreciate it.
Let's,
I'm always trying to balance, how much I want to, right? Because when you get a text message, it's like pushing into your
Oh, yeah.
life at home.
interruption.
Right, and I don't know that balance sometimes. So I do appreciate it.
100%.
Yeah, okay. I appreciate the feedback. I really do.
So we're on to proposal from Jacob and Anna McDermott to amend the library ordinance. Yes. Sure.
Because I'm Anna McDermott, and I'm here in support of the amendment to the 1996 library ordinance that my husband Jake and I submitted to the town. I have been a library trustee since 2023, and was elected chair of the board last September. I have not submitted the amendment on behalf of the board for other residents. I found a printout of the 1996 ordinance last fall, and my efforts to implement the ordinance have been stressful for both the board and the library director, and there is a definite need for clarity, which the amendment aims to provide. According to the ordinance, the library board is responsible for directing the day-to-day operations of the library. But for quite a long time, the library has been run by one person, the library director. The library board is meant to be a reflection of the townspeople. I don't believe that the board has succeeded in doing that. It has been disheartening to see trustees suggest programming and activities they thought the community would find valuable, only to have them dismissed. There is very little active programming for children and teens, who make up 27% of the town's population, and very little programming geared towards 30 to 64-year-olds, who make up more than 50% of the town's population. The board has also tried to strengthen the relationship with the schools, which has not gone well. The board must have a say in how the library serves our community. We're elected to represent the taxpayers. The beauty of the board is that it does reflect the community. And as the library is for everyone, the role of the board is to ensure the library serves the townspeople to the best of its ability. The 1996 ordinance is a carefully thought out document, but after nearly 30 years, things have changed and it should be amended to reflect that. I recommend edits to balance out the roles of the trustees, the library director, and the town. For example, the trustees are no longer responsible for managing the finances of the library. The role of treasurer is no longer needed. And the Friends of Cumberland Library has replaced the Public Library Association as the charitable arm of the library. Many aspects of the ordinance do not need to change. The library director should continue to be responsible for managing the library's operations, and the board should be involved in the selection of future library directors, as its broad knowledge base and connection to the community is invaluable in assisting the town manager in their selection. Trustees should continue to be elected and appointed by the select board to ensure the library remains a useful and effective institution within the community. You could replace the ordinance with one where the board only has a voice upon request, but if that were to happen, you'd ultimately be silencing the citizens of Monmouth. The town's attorney or select board may have further edits to our amendment, which I welcome, and I hope the select board approves adding a version of this amendment to the upcoming ballot.
I just want to add one thing. And I think we're fortunate in Monmouth to have folks that are essentially volunteers, elected volunteers in some cases, on things like our library board to help manage this valuable public resource. And I just want to note the fact that they do that means that somebody else for the town doesn't have to do that. And that reduces the burden on taxpayers and makes that public resource more efficient. And I just think that's super valuable. And that's one of the reasons I was proud to help Anna draft this ordinance and propose it to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it appears you wrote something out. Would you be willing to send it to us?
Yes.
That would be helpful. You mean you didn't get? This is,
I do, but she made a statement. That's
oh,
what
that's
I read.
Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am.
There are a number of the public of us here who are not on the board or friends of the library who agree. There's been a lack of programming. There's been a lack of branching out to schools and to the youth. There's limited, if no volunteer, opportunities at the library, which would be invaluable for our teenagers, students, as they do have to earn a certain number of community service hours to graduate. It would also be helpful to work with clubs like the entrepreneurship club so that they can learn how to run a business, that sort of thing. Other opportunities that are falling through the cracks in our community. The library is supposed to be a hub of the community. And it currently, unfortunately, is not. Programming is very limited.
I'd like to disagree.
Yes. Roseanne.
I am a retired nurse. I worked full-time back along. I had children that used that library. I completely agree that it's difficult for young parents who are working with children to get to the library because of their own schedules. And I also think that we're in a new environment where people are on their device, including children. And that is very hard to break. Now, if people don't know how the library works, they should use it and come to the library and see how it's used. And I would support I would support any change that that parents themselves can help to volunteer for to do, because we have limited personnel also. Limited time, and I'm not sure people realize how much work goes into the library as it's current. So that's mine. And I really love that library. I take out a ton of books and and participate in the yoga and all of the other programs that they have.
Is it the existential question whether the board supervises the director or whether they are merely advisory?
Right, and I would
Doesn't
like
that
to-
seem to be the crux of the question?
Could I vote to that?
Julie.
Thank you. Just briefly, so that people understand, the library was started by Dr. Cumston as a private nonprofit library, and of necessity had a typical, for that entity, a governing board of trustees. In 1996, the library was transferred to the town, but the board retained its governing authority. rather than becoming an advisory board, which is typical for a municipal library. Apparently, at some point, the reorganizing 1996 ordinance was lost in the shuffle. For nearly 20 years now, I've been told by 4 different town managers that the board was advisory. Back in 23, the ordinance came to light and the then board decided to create a set of bylaws for the board rather than go through what is obviously a difficult process of amending it. The matter was raised again a year later. And I thought the amendment process would start with the town attorney. I'm not sure why that didn't happen. I don't think we would be in this situation if it had. The attorney could have created a boilerplate ordinance for an advisory board, again, which is typical for a municipal library. I feel that having 2 potentially competing authorities puts the director in a very difficult and unfair situation. I've already been through the worst of it, I believe, but I would not want a future director to go through what I've been through in the past few months. I also proposed an amendment which described fully integrating the library into the municipal structure of the town in order to ensure clarity and efficient administration of the library and to fully vest the town with the governance and management of the library as a designated municipal department. There are other options. The ordinance could be revoked. The library trustees could then function under a set of bylaws which exist. They were adopted in 2023. And a memorandum of understanding could be developed with the town. I did not realize this was going to go this way, but I strongly object to some of the statements that were made. And since those statements have been made, I have problems with the board of trustees who do not use, the majority of them do not use the library. They don't know that I have 3 volunteers. They may not realize that students coming in to volunteer, I have tried in the past. It's very difficult to manage them. We are a 1.75 full-time equivalent library. It's me full-time, 1 person who works 20 hours, and the other person works about 4 hours. I am busy all the time. I have been trying to be very transparent with the board. I explained that the focus on the adult and senior program was the result of a fairly recent survey by the town, or maybe the town's rec department, that asked people what they wanted, and predominantly it was more adult and senior programs. I do plenty of kids programming, and I don't know if it's because of COVID, but people seem reluctant to bring their kids at a certain time, at a certain date. So we do every day, all day, every day. We have what's called passive programming. It's a lot of fun. The kids literally come in, run to the table, and do creative activities. I have a lot of concerns about the level of animosity that I'm facing right now. It's hard for me to speak off the cuff, but I think in order to remedy this situation, there are available resources through the state library. I've already contacted 2 of the library management specialists, 1 just retired, but there are 2 remaining. They're happy to come to a meeting, to anyone would be welcome to come and talk about ways to improve communications, ways to have the board understand certain facets. I mean, I don't know how really I should speak, but I'm seeing that there might be 1 or 2 people that are acting without the rest of the board, without the board's full board's knowledge, discussion, and approval of actions. That is not correct procedure. I had,
Mr. Chair, if I can, please.
I'm sorry.
This is very much bordering on inappropriate behavior. This is turning into a personnel issue, which should not be vetted out here in the middle of a public meeting. The question here today is whether you want to, whether you have any interest or desire to implement the suggestion from Anna and Jacob, I believe is her name, his name, I'm sorry, about whether you think that their suggestion on the ordinance is something that you think that should be put to the voters or not. You also have a contradictory, I don't even want to say contradictory, but you have another proposal, which is also on the table here that you all have a copy of from Julie about what she thinks that item should be. I think we need to stick to what is on the agenda here and what is in front of you. And we're not going to air out personnel grievances in a public meeting. It's completely inappropriate. So I'm sorry that I'm interjecting here, but I feel I have to as the town manager on behalf of towns. We're going to get ourselves in trouble. So
Yeah.
we need to just stick to what is in front of you here and deal with that issue at hand, please.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes,
Who does supervise, Julie?
So according to the ordinance, it's a combination of the library trustees director and the town manager have to agree on her performance, hiring, termination, discipline, all that. We have to have, so it's two of us.
So you set the performance objectives and do an annual performance review
That,
in theory?
correct.
In theory.
I'm sorry, I'm being vague, but I kind of have to be.
No, that's
Okay,
personal.
okay.
I didn't know who
Yep.
supervised her.
Ginger.
So, my name's Ginger Jordan Hillier. Most of you know me, but in case you don't. And I'm the former, president of the Library Association and a lifetime member. I'm the former chair of the library board and oversaw the transfer of the library from the private to the public entity. And I do not recall any contention in that negotiations to do that over the existing supervisory role of the trustees for the library director. I am supportive of the proposals of Anna and Jake. And many of the things that they propose in there are just housekeeping stuff, which is just the responsibility of a board to do every now and then. And I am strongly opposed to the piece of Julie's suggestions that reduce or eliminate the supervisory role of the trustees. A board, as you all know, is a sort of a serious entity in a town with significant authority. Whether it's you as a selectman or as a planning board or an appeals board. And the most serious role under the current board ordinance is their oversight of the library director. If we remove or reduce that, do we then have an advisory committee or something other than a board of trustees? For more than 100 years, the language has been there for the trustees to supervise the library director. I don't think things are so wrong with that process that we need to reduce that or to eliminate that. Where was, let me. So if you do reduce that or eliminate that, you then shift that work and those responsibilities over to the town manager. And the town manager in this town, no matter who they are, always has a lot on their plate. So it feels to me like, and so you could do that, but then you would not have the advantage of the focus and the time of all of the people on the library to be helping to try and make that a better place and to better serve citizens. And so those, I think, are the reasons why I think we need to keep that supervisory role, which, like I said, the rest of it is housekeeping. Like you said, the crux is, do we keep the full supervisory role for the board or not? And those are my thoughts and my opinion.
Ginger. My wife was on
She was on the association / it became Friends, yeah.
She was, I think she was a library
She
trustee.
was a trustee as
And she was
well.
a trustee
I think
too.
when maybe Holly and then
Yeah.
Ronnie and,
I was there in the Holly days, yeah.
and,
I think
she
that-
always, she would come home to me after a meeting and say, all we're supposed to do is, create policy. Like, that was she felt that was her role of the trustees, the library trustees. But that's not, you don't see it that way?
I guess I don't sort of know what you're asking. I see that the role of the trustees as the supervisor and the oversight for the director is an appropriate role for a board. And I will just say that that wasn't contentious when we moved from the old method to the new method. And it has only become contentious recently. And I would like to see us maintain that supervisory role. I think it's important. I think the citizens of the town ultimately are served better by a library board with all the people and the focus that they can provide on strategic planning, you know, on all of that, than loading that on the town manager who never has enough hours in the day. I guess that's.
Jacob?
Just a quick comment to your question. So in my regular day life, I'm an attorney. I work a lot with corporations and boards and governance. And, you know, when my wife discovered there was this old ordinance that nobody seemed to be implementing, and she had a copy of it, I read through it, and it struck me, you know, there's some unique aspects of that apply just to Monmouth. But it's a very ordinary governing board structure that just about any organization that has a board over it would implement. So it's very standard. It's very, you know, it's probably very similar to how you all govern. And, you know, the normal course of things is a board sits over the management of whatever organization that is and helps guide policy. But they do have a more direct supervisory role for things like, do we keep this manager? We need to hire a new one and replace one that is retired. And that's just a very common board function. So there's nothing in what we've proposed that really shifts that other than eliminating the role of a treasurer. And that really is because of the relationship with the town and how budgets are managed for the library right now. So I just want to, there's nothing kind of exotic or unique about what's been proposed or already exists.
Laverne and I and another lady who are friends. I'm the treasurer of the Friends of the Library. And we had a meeting about what to do with our endowments and all our money if our organization went away. And we were hoping that, or we were thinking that maybe the trustees of the library would be an appropriate place to put the money. Knowing that the town doesn't really want that to have a fund of money, you know, supervised or something. But anyway,
We like money.
We were hoping there would be a treasurer, actually, who would,
And as we noted, and Anna noted, you know, to the extent there's edits that the selectmen believe is necessary, I don't think we would object to that. But we, you know, we're just responding to the situation as it exists today.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I think Emily's arm is about to fall
I
off.
know.
That's okay. There's a slight correction. Julie had said that it was uncommon for public libraries to have a board oversight board. That's untrue. I volunteered at several, you'll find it's about 50-50, the percentage that have an oversight board. Yarmouth Public Library, where I volunteered, Scarborough and Portland all have oversight boards.
John, Chip, a lot of the things that you see in there, the redlined items, are basically from the original ordinance, but the transition of the bridge from going in for the town and then adopting all the assets and everything of the original association. So that's what a lot of the red stuff is. Once you get after that point, it's back to what Joe was saying about this. Is that, do you want this to be advisory or do you want it to be advisory? And like you said, when Nancy was back on the board, the trustee board, was basically policy. Who's gonna, I don't know, my wife, would she taught classes down there all the time too. Kids and so forth. Who's gonna do that? If people don't have the time, you need volunteers to do that. The other thing I really think, this was dropped. You had the successful bridge over to the situation we have now. And this is which sort of got dropped. Went through 3 town managers, 3 librarians. I'm better than problems you're having now. That's something I'm looking at, and a lot of friction here, and I think it was not there.
Likely.
Part of the stew was. Yeah. We only started for this one. Heavy.
So when I went up to the table, there were 2 marked up documents up there. So what are they? What is the difference between these 2? I'm kind of looking at them and they don't seem to be in alignment.
One is from Jacob and Anna, and one is from Julie.
So the one that says Sawtell
Is from
is
Julie.
your proposal.
And I did not even realize that my proposal was going to be entertained here this evening. That was not my understanding.
Well, I told you it was.
If we're gonna do something for the voters, we need to have it nailed down for 2 weeks from today.
So what do? Do we present both items and a Chinese menu? Do A or B, or
I would,
do we present?
please do not, because then we have to figure out how to cobble the thing together after the fact.
And you said you had a plan, at Monday's meeting of the Economic Development Committee, you said you had a plan.
Well, my hope would be that we could find some consensus among the board and use the intervening 2 weeks to come up with a hard and fast proposal that a majority of the board would support.
Clarification, are you talking about the Board of Selectmen or the Cumston Board of Trustees?
The Cumston Board of Trustees.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so can I just clarify, just a point of order so you understand the fact. The language itself, you people need to decide. When I say you people, I don't mean that meanly. Just the select board has to decide whether you're going to include a question on the warrant that you want me to propose to you for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
We have time between now and election day to hold a public hearing on said ordinance that can be written any way it wants. I just need to know what the language is that you would like included on the warrant to propose to the voters. That's why I said, please do not include 2 questions on the same thing, because nobody's gonna know what it says. It should say something like, and I can draft it, but it should just say, do you want to amend the 1996 library ordinance with the one that's on file at the town office or something like that? Like, that's what I need you guys to, whether you want to even propose it to the voters. The language can be decided. We still have more time for that.
So,
Because
So
Just so you know, I just wanted you
there's,
to know,
there's
you have
one,
more
there's
time.
one additional, decision branch to the tree. And I think
More
you,
complicated?
yeah, I think you just hit it on the head.
Okay.
I mean, it seems to me like, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is that, there are folks who would like the library director to report to the town manager. There are folks who would like the library director to report to this board and the town manager.
Which is the way it works right now.
No.
Which is the way it works right now.
Doesn't work that way.
That's the way the ordinance reads.
Yes.
The reason it doesn't work that way is because some of us were not involved with the supervision of that.
I do understand where you're coming from. I do understand that past practice, but the ordinance does say that myself and the trustee chair have to agree on just about everything. And we have run this through the town's attorney and she agrees. So I cannot do anything and neither can Anna without the two of us agreeing and basically signing off on it. So we have a tandem supervision of the library director. And I have no opinion about that whatsoever. I think the town should decide how that's gonna work, but that's the way, that's functionally the way that ordinance reads today. It may or may not have been followed in the past, but it is what it says.
Yes, Allison.
It's being portrayed almost as an all or nothing, whether it's supervisory, the governance or advisory. In my mind, the proposed amendment has it be, I don't know, as a percentage of 90% that it's advisory in a smidge of governance. The actual only real oversight that the chair or the board would have for the director would be a yearly evaluation, which I think is a good idea because the trustees meet with the library director monthly throughout the year and have a good feeling of the library, whereas the town manager probably doesn't. So it helps to help with that evaluation. And the other piece is that the board should be involved with an action plan for the library. And I'm finishing up my third term, hopefully another term. We've never had an action plan that was created as a board. There have been, ideas thrown out, lot not acted on. I mean, it's just a lot of things. I think having that direction would be super helpful for the library as it goes forward. And that's really where the governance is for the library, the actual day-to-day supervision. Nobody on the trustee board, we're all volunteers. We don't want to be micromanaging Julie. In personnel stuff, that would fall under the town manager, the way that the town's set up for personnel. We're not touching that. It's a very small amount of governance is what's there. So when you say, it's not, in my mind, a complete either or. I know you kind of have to describe, but that's how I see it.
A Chip.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. Not everybody was involved to the point that they wanted to be in the evaluation process. There's only 5 people here. There's no reason why all 5 people could be contributing. And as you were saying, or along the way here, this is an amendment of something that's already there. We're amending it because there's problems with it. So if you're going to just amend it without looking at what the supervisory mechanism would be, I don't think you're solving the situation. There should be discussion here as to what the supervision mechanism would be. And I think that's where a lot of the animosity and other things from that.
No, I hear you.
Yes.
Yeah.
General terms.
Yeah.
And one more point, if nothing changes, then by law, we should still be following the 1996 ordinance, which is what's kind of brought all of this to a boil anyway. So something needs to happen, or this will continue to be I won't say what, I don't know.
Contentious.
Thank you, because I was gonna use something else.
So I'm just trying to, I'm sitting here quietly and listening to everything. So what I'm hearing Justin saying, that really the question right now is not what any suggested ordinance or amendment to the ordinance will say. What needs to be decided tonight is whether or not there will be put forth an amended ordinance that will be voted on June 10th.
I would say that is the minimum that I need from them, so I can present that to them at their next meeting. Yes, you're
And then
correct.
the second thing that I heard Kent, I think, say is that between this time that it gets put onto the warrant and the actual date of June 10th, or probably before that, of course, would it be the select board would work with the trustees board to come up with what that amended ordinance would look like?
Yeah.
Or that would be the job of the trustees of the library to come forth with?
I don't mean the language.
So it's,
I'm putting you in there, but it's volunteering you.
Yeah, good.
so, we're under the gun.
Absolutely.
If we're gonna be doing a secret ballot election. We need to know what that ordinance is. We need to have it legally, vetted, by
And
2
you have
weeks,
to hold a public hearing.
by 2 weeks from
before the-
today. That public hearing could be 2 weeks from today,
But
but
public hearing could be the week before the election too. It just, you have to have one
at some point.
before.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so we need to find some sort of consensus on what on the direction. I mean, it seems like we're at an impasse. And
As
we
far
need,
as what the amendment would look like.
as far as what the amendment would look like.
If there is one.
And if there
So
is
the
none,
question is
then we'll
whether-
just go forward with what we got.
So the question is whether or not there can become a resolution as far as this is what the amendment looks like before the June date.
Actually, it's before our meeting next week, or 2 weeks from today.
And then.
You don't technically have to have all the language together, but I do need to know by your next meeting whether you're gonna put something forward to the voters. And I know it's awkward that you might not even know what that is, right? But you technically can put a question out there, not even knowing what the document's gonna say, but that's up. But you guys can do that. It's like Congress, right? You need to pass it to know what's in it type of
Well,
thing.
then I think I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, I'm just
If-
trying to tell you what.
I would like to say
technically
that
you can do it.
if we have consensus from the library board, this is my motion. If we have a consensus document from the library board, for our next meeting, then I would be willing to put a question on the ballot. But if there is no consensus document from the library board, then there would be no, under my motion, there would be no amendment on the ballot. There would be no amendment to the ordinance.
What's a consensus?
Yes, that
Is it
was.
3-2?
Something that's-
Majority or
A majority of the board.
a simple majority. Okay.
What Jacob has proposed, is this legal? I mean, when you're.
He's a lawyer.
I believe the language is solid. It has to be passed duly by the select board and the voters.
Right.
I've
But
read it.
I'm not a
It's
municipal
not- it's
attorney,
not-
so I'll give you that.
There's nothing, I don't think, in either one of those documents that creates some type of heartache for me, not being a lawyer, but just reading it. It's just choices. Like, how do you want this? How do you want to govern the library?
And would you take whatever form they chose and have our attorney look at it? Does that have to happen or not?
I would
Yes.
submit it and I
That's
will,
what I thought.
yep,
Yes.
I would. Just to be sure.
So, Julie,
Could I refer back to the question about revoking the ordinance altogether and having the board run by the bylaws that exist with a memorandum of understanding with the town?
None of that we've even seen, so.
Well,
you know.
and it feels like we're going backwards in time.
Yeah.
It's very typical of.
Well, isn't that the question you're kind of putting to the board for their vote to be put forth next week? Do they want to put forth an ordinance? Or just go by the bylaws? Because how are we gonna move forward if there isn't a change in the ordinance? Because the ordinance as is not working.
I just I think the ordinance as is could work.
Yeah.
And it's, I think the board is trying to implement that right now. But I just want to suggest, to the extent the town decides, hey, let's have an advisory only board. I think you might as well just get rid of the board.
That's right. And
And there should be no board. Because the point of the board is to help direct the the activities of the library. You have elected officials on the board. I don't think the town needs to go through all that effort if it decides that most of the management functions are gonna default to the town itself. Again, like I said earlier, I think that will put extra pressure on the town, maybe extra pressure on the library that I would rather not see, but that's my opinion. I just want to put that out there, that to the extent the choice is between an advisory only and an actually managing board to some extent. With the limited powers we propose or with the existing powers in the 96 ordinance, that's a board. Otherwise, you have the Friends of the Library.
We already have an advisory board, don't we?
Exactly, yeah. So it just seems like you don't need a board if you're going with the proposal, let's make them advisory only. You have a charity that can advise and say, we have money for this or that.
I'm not an attorney and maybe he can answer better, but just keep in mind that the 1996 ordinance kind of transferred this organization from being a private one to being in theory, a quasi, if you want to call it that, but at the very least, turned it into a quasi municipal department that the town owns the resources that are at the library and all that. My concern would be is if you just simply revoke the ordinance, I don't know what happens to all of that.
Exactly.
If it does, maybe you can explain that. I don't know. I'd just be concerned.
That we were sort of moving closer to this and the town was taking over more. And who did what was sort of getting me a little confused, but this is the thing that made us have to move forward. Maine Municipal, the health insurance rates were skyrocketing. And Maine Municipal said, why are you covering these people at the library? They are not town employees. That was the line in the sand that said,
Yeah, you told me
okay,
that, didn't you?
time is here, we need to move it over. And there was only contention around one issue. My bottom line is I only wanted 2 appointed and I wanted 3 elected. And we fought over that for a long while. And then, and I wasn't giving up on that. I had my reasons for that. And then they decided they wanted to bring the ambulance corps under the town umbrella. And they figured if they could get us sorted out, then that would encourage the ambulance. And that's what finally broke the deadlock. And they were willing to cave on had to be 3 elected versus 2.
Bringing back nightmares. Just like all of that.
It wasn't nightmares. I wasn't giving up on it. I mean, we were not,
At this point, let's forget all of that.
Yeah.
And don't we want what it should be?
Right.
What should be happening now? Whatever happened in the past? That's why we're amending it.
And I'm fine with it.
Debbie?
So I've been chair of the trustees of the library for a period of time. In the past. What strikes me is that we currently have an ordinance that is not really being followed. So, but yet we are making proposals to change this ordinance. I guess just my observation is, would it make more sense to use the existing ordinance and make sure that everyone, the town manager and the board, clearly understand the responsibilities and operate under that before you make changes to this document? Because I'm just feeling like the cart is kind of going before the horse. There are people who don't really understand how it should be currently working under the current ordinance. So it's just an observation.
I do completely understand where you're coming from. I think that currently we are trying to manage it according to the way that the ordinance is written, but there are clearly things that we can't do. So the treasurer position, for example, which I think everybody agrees needs to get gotten rid of. I'm the treasurer of the town as the town manager. I approve all the expenditures that go out. Under the current ordinance, it says that the board is supposed to elect the treasurer to approve all of Julie's invoices. I don't mean to use Julie's name, but the library's invoices. That is just not practice. Like the library submits their invoices through regular process like police, fire, and every other department. And they come through our regular purchasing policy and they're treated like every other department in the town. So the trustees, I don't think, want that responsibility. They've never had it and they don't want to be responsible for it. And under the ordinance, somebody over there is supposed to be signing off on the library director's paycheck and everything else. And they don't do it. They never have done it. I do it. So it's just, it puts them in an awkward situation where they can't live up to the responsibilities under the ordinance. And some of it, they're just trying to get rid of because it's just not, it's not practice and it's not feasible. Like, the trustees cannot sign off on the library director's paycheck. It's never gonna happen.
So,
They can't because
So
I'm responsible for her pay going out the door and I'm not gonna let somebody else do it. You know what I mean? 'Cause my name goes on the check.
so what I'm hearing then is that the ordinance can't work as it's currently written.
It does not function the way that
It cannot.
some of it doesn't. Some of it is a choice, but there are like I keep picking on the treasurer thing, but like as a total document, it's fine. Like we can make it work, but a couple things have to disappear. Like this treasurer thing has to go so there are certain things that are choices, and I think they are choices, and the board can decide those. And Anna and I think, are trying to make the thing work the way that it's written, you know, to the best of our abilities. We're trying to do it. It's not perfect, but you know, nothing's perfect, so.
So the proposal then that we're seeing from you is a proposal that's been kind of worked out between you and the town manager?
No.
Anna took the time to go through it, reflecting on her own experience as the board chair, and drafted what she thought would work. Then I went through the draft and, you know, put my attorney hat on and corrected some words, and, you know, so she was deliberating more, and I told her what she, you know, put down that I wouldn't write as an attorney, and that's the end result.
But I
So
can
the
see like what's
trustees-
worked so far and what's not working, and that's that.
So the trustees have are already on board with this.
No,
No.
She's not.
Okay.
We submitted it in our own personal capacities. And my understanding, although I wasn't at those meetings, is that the trustees made an effort to modify the ordinance, and that process has become overly contentious. And there are sort of, you know, folks bringing in large numbers of folks to kind of be somewhat disruptive at meetings. And this is my own take, not anybody else's. And really, it's kind of hampering their ability to function as that normal board that they are. And, you know, my understanding is one of the reasons Anna wanted to look at it herself was, let's just, anybody can submit an ordinance to the select board, and why don't we just do that and see if that you just kind of steer around that obstacle and say, you know what? We have a good proposal, we'll put it to them, and the select board can decide. That was the goal.
Now I understand your.
Yes.
Thank you for all that clarification.
Sure.
Is there a meeting scheduled for the library
Within
board?
2 weeks.
No, the board meets every month, and unfortunately, because of this current ordinance, we have to give a week's notice to meet. And that was hindering our ability to get together and edit the ordinance as a group. And then when we didn't do that, then our ethics were being called into question. And that's when I was like, this isn't gonna work. I don't want the board in the crosshairs like this when we're all volunteers and working really hard, and we're all committed to the library, even if we disagree. And so that's why I was like, the ordinance has to change, and I, as a citizen, anyone as a citizen can submit an amendment.
To answer your question, we will have a meeting in April, a regular board meeting, unless we follow one, we need a week's notice, but it's actually on the 14th. The 14th this year, there's a scheduling conflict, so the chair is scheduled for the 14th. Next time we meet officially, unless we.
And it's too late then.
Yeah, we have to have it in 2 weeks, right?
Well, Justin is saying if we have it in 2 weeks, we can finish our business in terms of posting the question, creating the ballot, and moving forward with the voting process. But we would need to have something concrete in 2 weeks that reflects the consensus of the board, of the library board.
If that's the way you want to go, right? I mean, you obviously
Well, I
can
would-
accept either Julie's or Anna's right now, and you guys can do whatever you want, but right, in 2 weeks, I need to know kind of tonight what you want on the ballot for the next meeting, and I don't need the language, but I need to know whether you're willing to entertain amending it.
Right.
For your meeting in 2 weeks, and at that meeting, if you so chose, you could strike it. You just have to give me a minute to drive back down to the town office and print a new copy. That's all. And I can do that too. It's only a couple minutes away, so. Let's do that.
So I would suggest that we give the library board 2 weeks to come up with a consensus document. It seems to me, I'm one of 5 folks up here, but it seems to me like the current situation, supervisory situation, is a healthy one where the town manager and the board chair are working together along with the 4 other people on the board to manage the library.
Well, the problem with that is that some of us were not included in that supervisory situation. So we disagreed with that
Okay.
supervisory.
I would also suggest that if there is some disagreement, there are a couple of ways that you can go about it. You can negotiate, or you can write the disagreement, create a disagreeable document that says, here are the places where we disagree.
Yeah. And
That's fine too,
yeah,
right? Like we have today. I mean, we've got 2 competing ordinances that basically say, I mean, a lot of housekeeping here, but it basically says the librarian ought to report to the town manager, or the librarian ought to report to a board of 5 citizens.
Doesn't read that way.
No,
It
the
reads,
chair.
it reads to the chair.
Sorry, to the
And
chair
that's-
the chair of the board of 5
And
and the manager. And by the way, that chair is elected by whom?
The constituents of the town. Well, the chair is elected by the board.
The chair is elected by the board.
Yes. So the board chooses who they want to speak for them.
Exactly.
I don't want to misrepresent my feeling that the chair is trying to do a good job. I just disagree with the way it was done and what was done. So I think that can be worked out amongst us. And just giving us a chance to discuss why we disagree, what the facts are. So,
Would I be allowed to go to those meetings? Because I was prevented from going to work session.
right.
What does the ordinance say? It's a
Yeah.
Well, that'd be up to the trustees.
I think that if
Public
they're
meeting.
public
Intervention.
meetings, they have to be properly notified, but it's up to the chair. You are not a member of the board. You are allowed to attend the meeting. But it is up to the chair who is allowed to speak. And it, right?
Just like having an executive session.
Right.
Minor note. The current ordinance would, or arguably wouldn't allow the Board of Trustees to have work sessions where they could kind of hash stuff out and do those kinds of things. Which, you know, lots of public boards can do that. And then they meet in public and make sure that they air out everything that's discussed in the work session, and that way they're not, you know, keeping anything from the public. But they couldn't do that. That's part of the controversy that I think has us here before you tonight, right? Like that's what people were saying was unethical. The board met, you know, in secret, trying to pull a fast one on the town when they were just really trying to talk through the ordinance, understand it, before they met in public and held votes and took input from any members of the community that wanted to be there. So.
And the ordinance is, I will just say from my perspective is that part of it is sort of the awkward part that I think that like the chair and the town manager can work out, but it is kind of an awkward situation where like personnel issues are between somebody other than me and the town's attorney. And it's fine, like it works, like it can work, it's okay. It's just that it does create this kind of interesting dynamic, right? Where with most town employees, I'm the appointing authority and I decide what happens to them in the end, right? But with this situation, it's the two of us have to agree. And I'm not saying that can't function. It just, it's an interesting, it's different. Let's just put it that way. It's not unworkable. I just want you to know that it is different than the way that it usually works.
I was referring to work sessions that were held. And I have tried to be very transparent with the board. I provided a resource from the Maine Municipal Association about those work sessions, but they should have been public proceedings.
Yes,
And
and that's what we stopped doing.
Again, we're going off, in my opinion, we're getting sidetracked. Your item on your agenda is whether you want to entertain an amendment to the ordinance. We're not airing out personnel grievances in this meeting. It's inappropriate.
I make a motion, we table this until our next meeting and we put this as an agenda item. And if we don't have anything concrete that's a consensus document, that we just won't put it on the ballot and we'll run with the existing ordinance.
Which doesn't work, which
Yes.
doesn't really work very well.
Right, so who would enforce the following of the ordinance as written, because it doesn't seem like it has been. I know you are.
May I answer that? I think that currently we are doing our best to operate under the language that the ordinance has, and I cannot speak to the way that it has been treated in the past, but we're doing our very best right now to operate under the rules that are written in it now.
There's a motion on the
So
floor.
with the motion by Kent and
Second.
Joe will second.
No.
Getting them
What
back.
was your motion? Because I don't even remember it anymore, so.
We table this matter until our next
Oh,
meeting.
okay, because I
And
thought we had made
if we
one
have a-
before that.
If we have a,
Make a
it's
motion.
the same motion
And
Okay.
we're hoping that the board comes back
with a consensus
with a
document
consensus document.
that we should consider.
And I think it is hard to, I know you draft things as an attorney, it's hard to do it with 30 people. I mean, you can't do it with 30 people.
I work in electricity and regulatory matters, so. 50 people, and you just make them all think that whatever you're writing down is there.
Everybody likes the MP.
Your CMP or?
I work with Chuck Cullen.
Too high.
Second.
Buddy, second.
So, there's this.
I'm looking for a second, Doug.
Yes, you are.
The table and for them to come back.
Right.
Okay.
You'll second it. So there's a motion by Kent, second by Joe to table the proposal by Jacob and Anna McDermott to amend the library ordinance. So is this
until next meeting.
Until the next.
Next meeting, it'll be an agenda item for the next meeting. And the hope would be that we have a consensus document, representative of a majority vote of the board. That's the fine print. You still seconding with me?
Oh, do you need to vote on this first? I'm just saying you have two ordinances before you, so you need to dispose of both of them however you want.
Yeah.
Don't you?
The disposal is we're tabling the matter until our next meeting.
So are you just
With the
tabling
statement
this
that-
matter or both of them?
We want something we can use.
You're deferring it to the library.
They want the library board of trustees to come back with a single ordinance that's gotten a majority.
But Julie also submitted one, so do you not need to decide what to do with that?
We're tabling that one too.
Okay, that's all I need.
The whole
That's
thing
what
is
was
tabled.
confusing me. Thank you.
Okay, so, Mark, you all set?
Yes.
Okay. So, all those in favor of tabling that, Ted's motion?
I vote yes.
Thank you. So we have it tabled and,
Till next meeting.
yeah, till next. Next on the agenda is to consider, to review the draft fiscal year.
This is just so that you guys have the opportunity to make changes or ask questions of any of us that you don't, for the public hearing, because the public hearing, you don't really,
Yeah.
this is just so you can take action on it if you want. I don't know if you have any changes you want to make or not.
Who does they?
Tony's here, the police chief's here, if you guys have any questions. If you want to make any changes to the budget, if you're happy with the way it is, we'll bring it to you, we'll bring it back to your next meeting and it'll be on the warrant.
It's a big bucks.
No.
Did you have any questions further than what we already?
Favor of what was presented.
Yeah.
Way it was presented.
Yeah. Okay. I'm okay with those numbers. Were you okay with those numbers?
Yes.
Mark, you okay with the numbers as presented in the draft?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And then there's a fiscal year
Do we need to motion or anything?
24,
No, if you guys are good, I'll bring it back to you.
25, warrant 16.
Let me see. Did we get one? I saw the payroll
It
warrant.
was,
Yeah.
it was but it was earlier in the week or Friday, I think it was.
Saw the payroll one today, I signed.
I haven't seen the payment, but I haven't. Hers was earlier in the week.
I'll find it.
I went through it.
Yeah, and because it changed the signature, you had to choose, mine had made me choose what style signature I wanted again.
You signed it, I think, and I looked at it.
Did you find it?
I thought you were, I'm just trying.
What's yours?
14, maybe?
Yes, yeah, I think it was Friday. Yeah, because it's so old.
Live mic.
Blue Rock Earthworks, materials transport, $3,228. Central Main Power, various buildings, $5,150. Clean Harbors Environmental. Grease trap, antifreeze, stuff like that. Public Works, $4,164. Cocknowagan Trailblazers, $1,535. So reimbursement for the snowmobile fees. Collected. Irigo Wireless, This is the repeater for the fire department on their switch box there for their communications, 14,163. Eco Main, 1,581, that's, recycling. Fabian Oil, 2,752, diesel fuel for various town buildings. Fortis Electric, $1,000, Constable Hall LED lighting install. Main Waste to Energy, tipping fees, 4,137. Monmouth Masonic Lodge, $7,000, that's for an old, reimbursement that you guys approved a while ago. We were waiting for some invoices.
From the TIF fund.
From the TIF, yeah. Monmouth Museum, same thing, 2,675, that's from the TIF as well. Northeast Energy Apparatus, 4 sets of turnout gear for the fire department, $10,714. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, 4,829. US Bank, Russ, this is for the, I think this is the photocopier, $4,354 for our lease. For a grand total of $75,998.73.
I make a motion, we approve warrant number 16 of fiscal year 24-25.
Second.
So it's a motion by Chris, second by Ken. Approve warrant number 16 for fiscal year 24-25. All those in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark says yes.
We adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Where did this come from?
Policy.